Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Here to see if Caitlin Clark can set the record. But right now, everybody is trying to see Nebraska can pull the major upset on national TV here today. Nisley on top with 15 to shoot. Dribbles against Clark. The right elbow. Shelley throws down low. Marowski kicks it out to Jazz. Knocked away by Marshall. 7 to shoot. 6 to shoot. Shelley for three. You betcha! Huskers take their first lead of the game with 30 seconds left. You betcha! Huskers take the lead over second-ranked Iowa. 30 seconds to go, and they are going crazy at PDA. Listen to this crowd.
Second and 10, Niners up 3-0. Purdy going to throw a double pass. Back to Juwan Jennings. A throwback across the field to McCaffrey. He's got it. 20, 10, 5, touchdown! San Francisco!
CMC, enter the dragon, baby. 6 points on a trick play.
Buckner now will try a field goal from 29 yards out to try to tie the game. At 6 seconds to go. Buckner's kick is perfect. This game is tied at 19-19. The Chiefs Kingdom has started its own history class because for the first time in 6,944 days, there is a back-to-back Super Bowl champion, and it is the Kansas City Chiefs.
Good morning. Welcome into Hurrdat Sports Radio here on AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, and welcome back to Damon Benning, old DB.
All right, does this thing work?
It is. I can hear you.
I can't.
You are on.
Is this thing on?
It is.
Is this thing on?
I know it's been a minute, but you got the microphone down, right? You good?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I've done enough. Not enough. I probably did. It was relatively minimal. I probably only did about, unless I was with you guys.
Yeah.
Or the Husker Radio Network. I basically only did, I think, Doc Talk.
Yeah, I think that's right.
I did one pod, which did not go the way that I anticipated, but it was really, really good.
No, it was good.
They lulled me to sleep.
That's what I do. That's my plan.
I'm like,
just kind of rock the baby, and then
and you know how I am without a blueprint, a roadmap, if you will. So I'm like, I didn't expect to talk about this. Oh, how'd that come? Oh yeah, I didn't know you were gonna. So it was just one of those deals. But I didn't do a ton of media. So I hope I remember. I can't even figure out how to work my computer. So that's number one.
That's obstacle number one. But we'll get over.
Yeah, but at least that hasn't changed yet. Like
if you came back and were like super computer literate, I'd be like, "What's happening here?
Yeah,
what are we doing?"
It would actually be bizarro world, but it's not. So we're good, man. Happy to be back.
Yeah, it's great to have you.
I don't know. Is there anything going on?
Yeah,
how are things? How have you been? I feel like I talked to you Friday. And then a couple weeks ago, and then
yeah, I mean,
in our personal life, then almost like every other day. So
we were talking pretty regular.
Hey, real quick question though.
Yeah,
who initiated, me or you? Was I annoying you that Friday night where we literally text throughout the last 18 minutes of the Creighton game, which seemed like 2 hours and 26 minutes of our life because of the replays?
I think you initiated.
Was that Butler? It was Butler.
Yeah, because it was
Butler.
It me? I don't remember.
Yeah, Breeze and I were Mike and I were driving home from his game. He played at 9.
Oh gosh.
And I didn't want to know what was going on.
Okay.
Because I'm just like that.
Yeah.
But then I was like, when I was syncing my phone in the car, like obviously my front page.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw the score.
Yeah.
So then I was like, yep, we're just going to
gotta figure out what's going on here.
Figure out what's going on. And then when I got home, I could actually see, and that was about when there was a replay going on for a loose ball. I was like, oh my gosh, I think that's off his knee.
Which was super helpful because I was there live.
Yeah.
And I could not figure out
what was
you don't
going
get the
on.
replays, right? When they're actually reviewing stuff.
Yeah.
Which drives me crazy. But I was like, hey, is that in? Is that staying? What's happening here? Yeah, so we were going back and forth for quite a bit.
It seemed like, I'm like, gosh, if I was at the game, I don't know.
Oh, it doesn't bother me.
Oh, yeah. Well, and you did your fair share of communicating. So I figured I thought we were okay.
I wasn't like doing the one word replies. Like I had thoughts.
Hey, it'd be nice if you could figure this thing out for me, would you? Know, like, man, I don't know, Ravi. Like, what is going on?
I had some thoughts and some feelings, as I do, about the game that happened last night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you okay? You seem a little. I thought you'd be doing like cartwheels, because I know this was. I mean, this is what you set out to do. So I felt like, hey,
you seem very hurt right now.
I'm very excited.
Welcome back, by the way, little dude.
There's Shano's back. He was out last week. We appreciate him being back.
Shane just wanted to have a party because he thinks we're going to celebrate. I didn't bring breakfast.
Well, maybe.
Well, maybe. I got, I'm just rocking my Uncrustables over here like a child.
Yeah, that is. I'm going to go ahead and kid you. Just had a little bit of a knockdown, drag out back and forth with Caleb a couple weeks ago over those things.
Why?
Well, we use those sometimes, like in between, like after workouts, or maybe on ways to games for like road trips and stuff.
Yeah,
at Westside, and I'm thinking, who's eating those? But apparently, I'm in much like normal. I'm in the minority. Apparently,
you're comfortable being at least.
Apparently, those are pretty legit, and I'm missing out. Like that. He'll die on that hill.
Well, I'm trying to wean myself off of the fast food breakfast, because I would come in here rocking like the McDonald's or whatever every day. So I feel like it's a step in the right direction.
I got you.
But no, it's I'm excited to be back with you here. Obviously, last night did not go how I wanted it to.
Yeah, I've been there, right?
Yeah,
Aaron Rodgers, and I felt like Green Bay. The only thing I can ever remember being happy about that game was I am a huge Woodson fan.
Yeah.
And he got Ben. So
yeah.
I'm thinking in hindsight, I was like, oh, if there's going to be anything I could be an high-functioning adult about, Woodson did his thing. But it's just funny how things have changed, because since then, I'm much better at, like, I can separate fandom from watching a game, right? Like, I could watch Nebraska basketball yesterday like an analyst. And not a fan, right? There's lots and lots of things I appreciate about Caitlin Clark and that whole Iowa team that is probably not popular to say out loud on Nebraska Airways, but it doesn't bother me, right? That's why I can give Iowa credit during radio hits, or say something about Wisconsin, or like, even though it's about the only thing I probably still struggle with, like if we get into to Major League Baseball here in a couple months, and
Dodgers is your like your one.
Well, there's just so many the Giants. There's just so many teams that I have had such a strong disdain for.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm gonna say anything.
Not gonna say anything nice about them.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, like, I don't hate the Chiefs. I really don't. Yeah. Ironically enough, before I was doing radio every day,
and isn't it
you
ironic?
Can dislike the Chiefs,
don't you think?
If we could minimize the Mitch Holthus drops today, I'm just gonna be honest, Shane. Like for my mental health,
you're gonna. I
said this for a month and a half. Since the season started, like I picked the Niners to win the Super Bowl, and I fully thought that they would win yesterday.
I thought,
but I told you on Friday, the only difference is
Mahomes.
They don't have Mahomes.
And that's the whole – I mean, I said this during Conference Championship week. I was like, listen, I get the Ravens are better. I would rather face Lamar Jackson than Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
I'd rather face anybody than Patrick Mahomes. And at the end of the day –
apparently Patrick Mahomes would rather face Lamar Jackson than anybody else too.
I guess, yeah. I'm fine. Like, I'm obviously not thrilled about how that game played out.
I couldn't believe you were going back and forth with – Matt DeMarinis, because I was like, if that was me,
I needed to disassociate a little bit, so that helped.
Okay, so we function differently.
Because I was like, sometimes when I'm and you'll see if you were watching my Twitter, I was making comments about a lot of things other than football, like commercials or whatever was happening.
Which, by the way,
it's not a big fan of the commercial slate.
I don't really remember one. Well, two.
I remember
because and one I remember because I thought that there was no possible way that could happen, which reality isn't something I should base whether I like a commercial on.
Sure.
But I was like,
which one was that?
How can a dog see in the snow but the horses can't? Like
on the Budweiser commercial.
Yeah, it's like I didn't tug at my heartstrings. I'm glad the dog kissed the horse, but
Yeah, it was like a cute animal commercial, right? Like it was like,
Yeah,
oh, the
but
horses are cool. But I kind of thought the same thing. I thought they might do like a weird like reindeer thing with the dog's nose, like with like Rudolph, where like
the Grinch,
no, like maybe
because you know how his dog was kind of this.
yeah. Like I didn't know. It was like, is the dog
Max was his dog?
Yeah, I was like, is the dog's nose gonna glow? Like, how's the dog?
Yeah,
seeing?
I didn't get that, but I do distinctly remember the Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah, that one sticks out.
Oh, I laughed.
It was funny. It was good.
And listen, of course, nobody came over, so I'm just
laughing by yourself.
Yeah, 100%. Literally.
Yeah.
There's no one in the living room.
Oh, yeah. My wife wasn't even home. I was watching the game by myself.
And I'm like, well, Jay and Zoe were somewhere?
Yeah. They were not like engaged in the game watching.
That was like a strange 4 hours because like Macaulay Culkin, I felt like home alone.
It was just
but
me
I
and my
know
dogs.
that I'm pretty sure that they were in there somewhere.
You're like, I think they were in the house.
Yeah.
It was literally just me and Shadow and Doug on the couch.
Doug.
And Roggy's afraid of coming into that room because he doesn't like the floor or something on his paws. So he was just sitting at the top of the stairs staring at us the whole time. That was my watch crew. Like, I'm just there by myself, just tweeting about stupid stuff.
Which one's the cat again?
Potato.
Where was that
person? He's just running around.
Or whatever.
You know, cats do cat stuff.
Yeah, you told me the story of him sitting on your shoulder that one day chilling, and I was like, you're weird. Like, I don't know if I'll ever look at you the same again.
He does. He just climbs up on my shoulder.
As like a grown man with the cat.
Listen, you're going to have to talk to your guy, Jacob Padilla. He's a cat guy, too.
I need Jacob. And good on – so Jacob texted me last night late, which is early for Jacob. He probably was, like, just starting dinner at 10:20.
I was it's probably midnight, yeah.
He's like, hey, man, good to have you back. Gonna need to console Ravi maybe. And I was like, that's brutal.
Yeah.
But
it's a tough way to go.
I wanted to say young Jacob because that's what I call him sometimes.
Am I crazy? I would have rather gotten blown out.
I need him to get – no, you don't.
Fix your tweet.
I've been there. No, you don't.
Like, I'd rather get blown out.
No, you don't.
Are you sure?
I'm positive.
Why? Talk me through this. Because I'm sitting there last night. My wife comes home. She's like, sorry.
Because you're competitive, and I think at the end of the day, you always want a chance.
I do always want a chance.
And it's okay. Like, you barely have a heart anyway. So it will mend.
I don't know what that means.
It will mend. Like, I think you're going to be okay.
I will be okay.
I don't think you want your team to get dusted off from the jump. Because
maybe blown out's the wrong word. I would have preferred it not play out how it did. Because that was my nightmare scenario. I said this on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
My nightmare scenario was giving Patrick Mahomes the ball back in a one-score game.
Yeah, I
that was my nightmare.
I thought the question was interesting between you and AR-15, where you Drew Down, where you guys were talking about, 14-point lead in the fourth quarter, or
which position would you rather
Mahomes
be in?
with and unfortunately they kind of both came to fruition because the Niners had the chance to extend the game on a few different occasions and couldn't quite get it done. I didn't understand. It was now this a whole and I promised myself, because I was early to the party.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, almost like
Which party was that?
third broadcast
Okay.
of his career.
Being out on Romo.
So I'm way past the Romo thing.
Yeah.
And I think way back then people thought I was irrational.
Yeah, they thought you were being a hater.
I'm like, oh, he's just a hater. And I'm like, actually, like, if you guys spend some time around me, you'll be surprised. Okay, fine. That's not for me.
Sure.
But I could see where people would
sort of a cool novelty.
I could see where people would gravitate towards that. But then over time, a couple of things happened. Mm-hmm. Number one, his accuracy is not very good.
I was say, and he stopped doing it. Like, he largely has stopped doing it.
And that's fine, right? Because he doesn't know it's not. Like, you have to really
removed
you can tell preparation now.
Yeah.
So I think he hit a point where, and it happens to us all, right? Where you're feeling pretty good about a situation, you fall asleep at the wheel a little bit, and everybody catches up to you, and people have to come knock at your door and say, "Hey, listen now, like,
need you to step this up a little bit.
Need you to. I think Nance is losing his mind here." And the other thing I didn't like was I felt like Nance was one of the few people that could work with him. I kind of like somebody. I gravitate more towards
like a versatile personality
that anybody could work with them and they'll be okay. Right. Like that's kind of how I try to raise the kids. Right. Like, I want anybody to be able to watch you.
Well, because you're more valuable, right?
That's what I don't want you to be as preoccupied with the environment. I want you to be able to function in a lot of different arenas. So I got past, I'm over, like, I stopped shaking my head like probably 5 years ago.
It's been a minute.
Well, because you got to remember, it seemed like he always had Steelers games.
Yeah.
So there's some new fan bases now that are just now
getting exposed
to TR. But as I'm kind of watching, I'm like, I'm over the fanboy thing, like, because that got really ridiculous with a couple of quarterbacks. But last night, exceptionally, not only was he he started with the whole layered routes thing. Like, that bugged me, because you're giving football. And I remember, I think might have been Sharp who told me this early. He goes, well, he's not for you because you're a football guy.
Yeah.
But you think it would be just the opposite, right? Like, you're speaking my.
You would think the NFL quarterback who can give you
you'd be speaking my language.
Details that other people can't.
It wasn't like the man-to-man concepts. It wasn't even like when he said they were in man and they were or zone and they were actually playing man-to-man. It wasn't any of that. It was the fact I felt like he couldn't wait. I knew there were two things that happened in the pre-production meetings. You ever been in those? And so you kind of get a sense of what's going on. It was whether Purdy was a game manager or not, how many times he was going to say Mr. Irrelevant.
Yep.
Like, I knew that was a thing.
Yep.
And the other thing was this whole, I think he loves Mahomes, and I think he was chomping at the bit to get to this Mahomes-Kelsey thing. Because with every little thing Kelsey did, it was coming. And then when Kelsey got loose,
it was
in the second half, I was like, yep, he's in his wheelhouse. So that distracted me a little.
Yeah.
But I still was brought back to the fact that there's something about Kansas City that I've loved for the last 2 years.
What's that?
I've said it out loud 200 times, 2.5 years. I love their secondary.
Yeah.
I think their secondary is outstanding. And it's not just McDuffie and Snead. I'm a big Reed guy. I like their versatility. And I'm just telling you, putting together defenses with Queen, you cannot have Spags this and Spags that. And I thought Wilkes was very underappreciated.
I thought he did a
last
really good
night.
job.
He was fantastic.
Yeah.
He's fantastic.
And I've been critical of him.
They buckled their ass down against the run game.
They did.
That defense showed up.
Pacheco got almost nothing.
And he got Chase Young. I mean, you could tell
he got Chase Young going.
Yeah, you could tell folks probably got taken the.
They got taken the woodshed a little bit.
Yeah, hey, listen,
and Bosa lived in the backfield.
Let's roll tape here. Yeah, you guys need to play harder.
Yeah,
right. The unfortunate situation with Greenlaw, which was absolutely brutal.
The most bizarre thing.
And I'm just telling you, like, if you think that doesn't matter underneath man under concepts.
Well, so that's one of the things I wanted to get to.
Oh, but I get it. Injuries are part of the deal. But that was when you have a Hall of Fame, a first ballot guy like Kelsey.
Yeah.
And you're not able, you have to get off script to defend him.
Yeah.
Oh, it revealed itself. He and Mahomes, and they make up stuff.
Yeah, that's the hardest part, right?
Yeah, like you have to be savvy.
Yeah, the ad lib sort of just.
You may think you're
stuff.
in like 2-man or some man under,
doesn't matter,
or whatever, but they're so good. Mm-hmm. But then we fell in love with the leverage. There's nobody better against utilizing leverage, and I'm like,
and by we you mean Romo.
I'm like,
fell in love with the leverage.
I'm like, Tony, that is the whole concept of route running. The absolute best in the business was Tony Gonzalez.
Yep.
Tony Gonzalez would lean on you. He could stem you. Antonio Gates, right there in terms of understanding leverage and where to be. Gronkowski, not as much so because he was a bigger target. And Kelsey's good, but the whole route receiving concept is all about leverage. Hey, get to his top shoulder. Hey, straighten him up. Hey, get him to bend at the way. Like, that's route running 101. It's not just unique to Kelsey. It's just that's what we're going to talk about, because just say they're on the same page. Their chemistry
is incredible.
Is
unreal.
It's unparalleled.
Yeah.
It's
they've almost got like the weird twin telekinesis thing or telepath. Like, it's weird.
I'm telling you. Those option routes aren't even, it's feel. Hey, Pat, or whatever he calls him, nighttime, PM, whatever, right? My man's probably like, listen, hey, find me. I'll be there.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, I got you. Well, you probably have a general idea how it's going. But the three things that I like the most about the Chiefs revealed themselves. Mahomes, Kelsey, that's secondary.
Coming up next, we will set up the rest of the show as well as talk much more Super Bowl. Also, a lot of stuff going on here locally this weekend. We'll try and get to as much of that as possible as well. That's Damon Benning. I'm Ravi. Lulla. More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
It was here in the preseason that Jake missed a 40-yarder and a 58-yarder going towards these north uprights. The ball is down. Moody has it away. He has plenty of distance, and Jake Moody has nailed a 55-yard field goal in the Super Bowl.
And absolutely split the uprights.
Welcome back to Hurrdat Sports Radio here on AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. We are talking a lot of Super Bowl here, but I want to tell you who's coming up on the show. We've got Sam McKewon coming up at 8 o'clock from the Omaha World-Herald. At 9 a.m., we're going to talk to Andy Marowski, who's a former Husker, also, might be related to a fairly prominent.
Good get, Shane. Very good get. Always thinking on his feet.
Appreciate. And he had kind of a funny tweet yesterday, too, about the whole Iowa press conference.
The thing I love about AM,
scandal.
and we can get him out of it. We can get him to go there because he's, number one, he's got media experience, and he gives zero cares.
Yeah, looking forward to this.
You want to know what Andy's thinking?
You're going to find out.
Oh, 100%. Just ask him. He has no nonsense. I know he gets it from his wife, so that's fine. But man, I don't judge.
Then we will talk to Russell Baxter about NFL. He's from Fanside in the NFL. He's a bit of an NFL historian. We will wrap up the show talking NFL with Russell Baxter here. But before we get to that, you brought something up at the end of the last segment that I really wanted to get to because it's something as a more fan and less analyst about football that I wanted to ask you about because
I don't know.
I think you probably do, if I'm being honest.
Can I can do most things in life, just plead ignorance?
Yeah, I mean,
Some people just call me dumb, and I try to tell people there's a difference between being dumb and being ignorant. Ignorant means I'm just unaware.
Yeah, dumb is
dumb means
incapable.
like I'm making a conscious effort to not figure it out,
or like incapable of learning. Yeah. Ignorant is just like I haven't learned yet, right?
Right. Like kind of this whole camera and this audio thing. My man Boyce is like, yeah, I lost audio on YouTube. I'm like, it's intentional because nothing is going the way that I want it to right now.
We're going to figure it out. We're going to figure the technology out.
I kind of just like shoot from the hip.
yeah, that's the way we go here.
Right.
But I want to ask about the Dre Greenlaw situation, right?
Yeah.
Because it seemed like there was a very direct correlation between him being out of the game and the middle of the field passing game opening up for the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Am I making too straight of a line connection there?
No, I think, Kelsey and those guys and Mahomes, they're going to get theirs. But listen, anytime you lose the caliber of player of Greenlaw, like it matters.
Yeah.
Right. They took advantage of Burns a couple of times, and especially in combo coverage, when they're in those condensed sets, that's where film study is, or tight sets, like bunch sets.
Yeah.
Condensed meaning condensed. A lot of people in small spaces.
Close together. Yeah. Condensed.
There's a reason.
Yeah.
Kansas City made a living.
There's a reason they do that.
Right.
It's difficult to figure out what they're going to do.
Yep. And he and Mahomes, by he I mean Kelsey, are very if then. And listen, Kelsey's one of those guys. I almost said L2, but nobody would really get that unless they know to spell your name. But I was thinking PlayStation, like kind of the movable joystick.
The little,
and it's
I got you.
A couple of L's.
Yeah.
Can I say L2?
I don't care. You can do whatever you want.
No, let me work on that a little
You got to workshop it.
Yeah. So, listen, I get it. They're great. They have a chance. Well, Kelsey's already. They both are Hall of Famers. Kelsey's first ballot. Mahomes is probably
well
first
on his way. Yeah.
So we probably saw 3 first ballot Hall of Famers yesterday.
It just 3?
For sure.
Okay.
It's hard.
Because you're talking.
No, you act like you just get out of the rack and your first ballot.
But you're talking about Kelsey.
Ravi Lulla going into the Blue Jay Hall of Fame, the Grace College Hall of Fame,
I'm not going
the Miller North Powerlifting Hall of Fame. Not everybody just gets to get out of the rack and be an HOFer.
So we're talking Mahomes.
I almost gave you another effort.
Mahomes. Kelsey.
Bill's like, oh, God, here he goes. I don't have to worry about Chris because he's like on another planet right now.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's on a cruise.
How about his little pot shot, though? He's like, yeah, I'm getting ready to disconnect in about an hour. I got to do this, this, and this. And plus, you're on Android, so you're out.
If I didn't like you so much, I'd have cut you out before because of the Android thing.
So this next time around, because I'm a free agent,
I
may take the Don Meredith Nesty plunge.
I think you need to.
I'm just worried I won't know how to figure out anything.
I mean, listen, it's easier to figure out than the Android, I promise.
God, you should have seen me over the last 5 months.
Just struggling.
Oh, dude, I barely left the house.
Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing. I'm such a ding dong. Yeah, give me. Yeah, I think 3 first ballots for sure.
What about Warner?
No, not first ballot.
Okay.
Great player.
Because a lot of people would say Warner's better than Greenlaw right now.
No, I wouldn't.
That's why I brought him up.
But not first ballot.
Okay, fair.
You're missing him because he didn't play well.
Yeah.
You're missing him. He got off to a very slow start, and it was very un-him. But he is first ballot Hall of Famer.
I'm missing the 4th one?
The 3rd.
No, I said Mahomes, Kelsey, Greenlaw. That's what you said.
Not Greenlaw.
Oh, I thought you said Greenlaw was.
Heck no. He's not first ballot.
Okay. Mahomes, Kelsey. What are you doing, Bosa?
No.
Which side? Which team?
Niners.
I mean, what are you doing? You're doing McCaffrey?
No. Although I think he's Hall of Fame. He's trending in the Hall of Fame.
Right. If he continues this kind of.
He's an unbelievable player.
Yeah.
As much as he can be understated as a great player, I think his value is understated. He changes the way you can game plan.
I also think people don't appreciate how good of a just pure running back he is.
He's fantastic
because he is so versatile. He's
a great player.
Who am I missing? Okay, so Mahomes, Kelsey, and then one for the Niners.
Yep.
Oh, Trent Williams.
Correct.
Yeah. He's first ballot. He had a tough game.
Yeah, did not play well.
Did not have a good game. That was a big issue.
Now I'm telling you, like the Chiefs up front were
they were really good on defense up front.
Better than advertised.
Chris Jones 8
at the point of attack. So I knew they were going to move him around.
Yeah,
right. They were going to try to find weaknesses. But as he's gotten a little bigger and not as explosive,
you wondered how effective it would be.
He may be a better player because he's more versatile than just being a pass rusher.
He was really good against the run. Yeah. He was really good disrupting. I mean, there were not a lot of times that 49ers guys got clear of the secondary, right?
Oh, yeah. Just ask Romo.
And
Chris Jones was the difference.
It's
why a quarterback can't stand in the pocket and throw the ball to Deebo Samuel. I mean, not that any other quarterback has had to do it, but
there, it seemed like every time, whether it's Chris Jones or whoever else, it seemed like every time one of the 49ers receivers actually broke loose, that defensive line for the Chiefs got there so that it didn't matter.
Yeah, I always watch. I'm just stealing ideas of kind of how we could mirror defenses and stuff going into next season. And so I'm just watching the Chiefs secondary and what they're able to do with all. So one thing that can negate pressure packages is motion.
Yeah.
And a lot of movement and pre-snap looks. Spags still does what he does defensively in terms of bringing pressure, but you also have to have a secondary that's capable of handling the multiple looks with the pressure packages. That's what is very underappreciated. They tackle like crazy, and they know exactly where they're supposed to be. Are there some holes? Yeah, sure, but some things are high risk, high reward.
Yeah. Well, and I think that was one of the things that was the major difference between the defenses yesterday was Spagnuolo trusted his secondary to figure it out when he brought pressure and to be okay when he brought pressure. I think Wilkes would have liked to have brought pressure earlier than he did.
So I think he got scared. Do you know what I think happened? I think with the little drag route, the little crossing route, there's a natural rub. I don't even think it was a pick. I just think the Chiefs knew that they could get a trailing defender.
Yeah, because there's traffic. Yeah.
Right. So whether it was Kelsey or Rice
had a couple in the middle.
Same concepts.
Yeah.
Kind of the trail technique. I think he was worried about passing off some coverage once he had a few injuries.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's just player communication. Nebraska's got a fantastic concept that they use when people want to go to condensed sets. I got this from Coach Coop and Coach White. We actually mimic a couple of their drills.
Yeah.
But it's DB related. It's not DB as in me, but
defensive back. Yeah.
They got to talk to themselves.
Yeah.
Like it's on you. You give the signal, you play it a certain way.
Yeah.
As long as you guys know we're cool. The umbrella coverage comes from us on the sidelines.
Yeah.
But it's up to you guys
on how you actually execute it.
And I think they took advantage of a little bit of uncertainty
with some new guys in there.
Oh yeah.
That's good stuff there. Coming up, we'll wrap up hour number 1. There were some things that happened besides the Super Bowl last night. We'll get to them eventually. I don't know when, but we will.
Yeah, great basketball weekend for the state.
Really good basketball weekend. More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next.
We will be back. We will be back. will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Wrapping up hour number one here on Hurrdat Sports Radio on AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We are also live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Appreciate all the lively YouTube comments we've got going on the stream. DB has a question.
How do I do that again?
How you do what?
How do I log in?
Oh, I don't log in. I just comment.
No, like how do I log into do I click this tab?
Oh, no, you should hit the comments tab right there.
Are you sure?
Yeah. And then you can type.
Geez. Oh, hi, guys.
Yeah, you hit the little join the chat or whatever that says right there.
Oh, that's new.
Bada bing, bada boom. You're good to go.
Oh, got you.
You know, who else is good to go? Our friends over at the Omaha Supernovas.
Oh, yeah. They've been a joy.
They play tonight on the road, Grand Rapids, Michigan, but they'll be back on Sunday here in Omaha CHI Health Center. That is February 18th. Make sure, I was a little disappointed, I'm going to be honest with you. Game 3 or match 3, we were just under that 10,000 mark. I'd like to stay above that 10,000 mark, guys.
I'm with you.
Let's keep that rolling a little bit, okay?
Yeah, from your lips to God's ears, my man.
So got Sunday, February 18th.
Pack that place.
Get to Supernovas. Listen, get to 12.
Shane, who sings that song, Supernova?
Champagne Supernova? Oasis?
Yeah. There you go. I'm a champagne.
Yeah, there you go.
Supernova.
Those two guys hate each other.
Who?
Oh, isn't Oasis the brothers that hate each other?
Come on, man. Do I look like? Now, I know I threw you for a curveball with the Oasis reference, but I'm like not all in.
Okay, you're not all about
history.
that? Okay.
No. I got bigger fish to fry like Tony White and things like that.
Fair enough. My biggest fish to fry right now is making sure you go to supernovas.com to get tickets for February 18th. You can see the schedule. They got merchandise on there. Got some pretty sweet hoodies. Our friend Anna Bellinghausen was wearing one last week on the show. Make sure you get to
She's got to wear like extra small. Does she get like a youth large?
I don't know.
Do they have double X for big burly guys?
Well, we'll have to check it out. I'll have to go to the website and see if they've got stuff in my size.
Well, my cleanse, man, has me like feeling pretty slight.
You feeling lean and mean?
I may get whipped out there.
Yeah?
No.
Because you got that mean in you.
No, I was just talking to Terrence about that. No, that's not happening. I mean, at some point I'm going to slow down, right? But
probably, maybe, who knows?
No, I have one more plan to execute.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to retire from the violence game.
That's supernovas.com for your tickets. You mentioned Tony White there.
Yeah, I did. Did I say that?
You did say Tony White.
Well, I mean, I don't know.
His name's out in the ether a little bit.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Because UCLA. Okay, so I had this conversation a couple weeks ago. I know UCLA situation was weird because they were trying to fire him.
Mm-hmm.
So he was actively looking for other jobs. But there's been a very strange movement of sitting head college coaches deciding I'd rather have a coordinator job.
Well,
now there's some outlier situations like the Kelly one.
Mm-hmm.
The one that really kind of perked my ears up, though, was Hafley at BC. I gets an NFL job, but we had kind of stopped seeing that movement. Like back in the day, going from head coach in college to NFL DC or NFL coordinator was not that uncommon. Because you weren't going to get head coaching job in the NFL from a head coaching job in college that frequently, right?
Understood.
That hasn't really happened a ton recently.
It gotten a little unconventional?
Yeah, especially if you're succeeding in college, right? Like maybe Hafley really wants to go to the NFL and he knew he wasn't going straight from BC to the NFL. But there's been kind of a strange movement. We saw, Linguist up at Buffalo. We saw Womack down in South Alabama. A bunch of guys this offseason cycle have taken coordinator jobs when they were sitting head coaches. It's a little weird to me, but the latest one is Chip Kelly going to Ohio State, be the offensive coordinator after Bill O'Brien goes to take over at BC.
Are you one of these guys that thinks name, image, and likeness is wanting some of these guys to be relieved of head coaching headaches?
I don't know that it's specifically name, image, and likeness, but it goes back to a thing that Rule said earlier in the season.
Tinfoil hat or not?
No, I don't think it's a tinfoil hat.
Hot take?
No, I don't even think it's a hot take. I think it's a
little Spitfire. Eminem freestyle.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. Just a tiny bit. But
Toby Keith archives.
Not a big Toby Keith guy.
Oh, R.I.P.
I mean, I'm not, he's not going to throw dirt on him or anything, but it just wasn't my jam.
Okay.
You
can see you with a little straw and a cowboy hat.
Yeah, it's not really
Although you guys both look like you could push some iron.
Oh, not so much anymore for me, but
yo,
no,
I don't know. I didn't see a ton of pictures.
I didn't either, but when he was like in his prime, yeah. But no, I think a lot of it, I keep thinking about this thing that Coach Rule said, where he goes, "Hey, before I became a head coach, I was a pretty good football coach." There's not that much football coaching and being a head coach in college right now. It seems like. Is that crazy? Or there's a lot less?
I think it's different. I think you're much more of an overseer.
Yeah.
But you better have I think you have to be a lot more secure in 2024 than you did in 1994.
In what sense? Secure in what?
Because number one is there's a lot more information out there. So the informational highway is huge. A lot of people are traveling on that bad boy. So you may not always be the smartest guy in the room. Okay. Your ability to kind of be a dictator and it's all about me and you guys do as I say, that's gone.
Yeah.
Coordinators wanting to be compensated for some of these novel concepts and that's a thing. Keeping players in your program because other people will be sliding in your DMs is a thing. So it's not so much about I am man, hear me roar, as much as, hey, I've got to be able to adjust and evolve. I don't love this game the way that it's being played, but just tell me the rules and I'll figure it out. So your level of being able to be comfortable with you is at an all-time high, in my opinion, if you want to function at a high level.
With all that being said, though.
Shoot, there are some high school coaches that don't want to play the high school game.
Fair. They don't want to go figure out, like, hey, where's this kid from 8th grade going to high school and doing all that,
100%.
Right? I mean, one of our faves, Fred Petito, didn't really want to do that.
Oh, I walked into UBT last week.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can say this because I'm not putting him on. And listen, you know me, like, I don't care. Like, you do what you want to do.
Absolutely.
Because at the end of the day, I want what's best for kids and to create opportunities. But I watched two coaches, working it like a hooker on last Saturday. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I just laughed and I'm like, and we're the bad guys.
Yep.
Yep. But no, that's just me being childish.
Well, I mean,
but I like these two individuals.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really bother me.
Sure.
Like the guys that people and gals that people love to hate around here are people, are some of the folks that I actually really admire. Coach Saunders over at Scott.
Mm-hmm.
I need a hero. Like, she's a fave of mine.
Yeah.
Coach Huffman isn't a fave because he's a peer.
Yeah.
That's my guy, though, right?
Yeah,
That's my guy.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what you do. I just talked to Coach Martin 2 weeks ago over what's going on at Omaha North. Like, I'm you know how I feel about. I'm all in on Coach Martin.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
I'm cheering for Coach Braille.
Yeah, at Mo North.
Yeah.
My guy now.
A-Beezy, off the Heezy, right?
Yeah.
Like, when I was the general manager at the Omaha Beef, which, by the way, shout out, tremendous cutout out there at Hurrdat Sports.
Yeah.
Because I'm a big Omaha Beef guy.
I didn't know you were the general manager of the
Beef. So when Nato, one of my best friends, right? He's in Miami catching swordfish right now. Nato Development Companies. We were talking over the weekend about some other things that we want to do together. And when I stopped overseeing he had a nonprofit for kids called Pacific Pals.
Yeah.
And so we're going to move in a different direction from there. But he's like, hey, let's move you downstairs to this office that we're redeveloping. Why don't you help me be in the front office? So it was me and Bostic. So I did like our player acquisition.
Nice.
And John handled the contracts. And I love JB.
Yeah.
But anyway, so shout out to the Omaha Beef. But where was I going with that?
You were super good question.
I don't know.
You were talking about how people operate. We were talking about how college coaching doesn't involve that much football anymore.
So it's like when you have to be somebody that is comfortable, knowing that you may be a little uncomfortable. You think Coach Rule wants to play it like this? Like, we just had just going back and forth with him on the recruiting trail. He had the whole staff out at Westside.
Yeah.
I was shocked. He's like, hey, I'll be there tomorrow at 2, this, and this, and this, and
well,
this.
They got a pretty good player out there. I think they want pretty bad.
And so, like, when I rolled in, I was like, oh, I'm leaving. There's too many people in this room. Right? You get, like, Paris. It was fine, though. Like, I basically just drew up secret plays with Coach Lamanji. But, it's just – it's very, very hard. I don't think it chased a guy like Harbaugh out. I think Harbaugh always wanted to be.
I think you always want to go back to the NFL.
But Saban and some of these guys, I
think chased him out is too strong. I think they.
Me too, because Saban still yields the power stick.
Yes, Saban still would have been successful.
I think he just doesn't like the direction that it's moving.
I also think it was harder. Like, I think it takes more out of him now than it used to.
Yeah.
Right. And at his age, he was just like, I don't know how much I want to keep doing this.
Yeah.
Whereas I think some of these other guys, and I honestly think you might see more of this, is guys just being happy with coordinator roles, especially now that coordinators are 7-figure jobs.
Yeah. So it's interesting, right? Because I hear the bed music. I still know how to do that. By the way, Cam kicked me out last week, Shane, because he didn't give me any bed music. I didn't just talk over the heart out. But, we can go back and talk about Coach White and what happened at SC with that defensive coordinator job, because I saw him the very next morning when he came to Omaha Westside. And before he even came in the building, we talked about it. So there's way more that goes on in the job changing than people think with regards to a school like UCLA.
Sam McKewon coming up next here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio. Here is the sports editor for the Omaha World-Herald, Sam McKewon.
That's fine. That's fine. That's fine.
Sam McKewon.
We're gonna throw the ball, and you just stand back there and throw it where you want to go. That kind of thing.
Sam McKewon.
Are you guys going?
Sure.
Now, Sam McKewon.
Kicking off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. I'm Ravi Lulla, DB here with me, and we are joined now on the Warhorse Sports Hotline by Sam McKewon from the Omaha World-Herald. Sam, how are you this morning?
Good. How are you guys? Welcome back, Damon.
Sam, I'm good, man. Not only did I miss you, I appreciated your social media tweet that you said that's good news. Is that just so I could stay out of Nebraska's hair having a job, or like what made that good news? I didn't know you liked talking to me.
I like talking to you.
Hey, you're a good man.
I'm telling you now, you're good. You're good for the industry. You're good for the industry around here. We need to have your voice a part of it.
I appreciate
part
that.
of it.
Hey, can I ask you some kind of off topic here real quick?
Yeah.
As folks that follow the Bears in your household, was the McMichael story and kind of the seemingly into that journey different in addition to supersede, take precedent over the fact that you got 3 Bears going in to that deal, like kind of a big deal for the organization? How did somebody that has it so near and dear to their heart, how'd that hit?
Oh, it hit really good. So yeah, Steve McMichael has ALS, and I think you could say in some ways he wasn't the best player on the '85 Bears. That was Walter Payton, but we lost Walter a long time ago, and so McMichael was sort of like the fun side of the '85 Bears, and so it's good to see him get in. It's not 3 different eras of the Bears, but 3 very different Bears got in. So he got in Julius Peppers, who probably belongs to Carolina more than Chicago, and then Devin Hester, who was the first true returner in the history of the sport to get in. So it was very cool. McMichael's story is pretty amazing. I think he was pretty universally liked.
Yeah, I couldn't believe Ryan's response on set. Like, that was kind of powerful, even as big a goober as Ryan can be sometimes.
Yeah, it's a cool thing for the Bears, and we have a lot of history. That's what we have as Bears fans. We don't necessarily have a great present, but we have this amazing past, and we have that one year, and the Bears get a lot of players in the Hall of Fame. They just do. I mean, Urlacher's there. One day Lance Briggs will be there because he was better than Urlacher. And then,
I think only Bears fans know that.
Yeah, maybe it's possible.
Because I 100% agree with you, and I'm not a fan, but I am a nerd, so that I pay attention to that just because Dan Jackson. There are so many of you guys that are Bears fans, and I just remember him fawning over Lance Briggs. He's a football guy, obviously, right? And it's like, he's like, DB, I'm just telling you. And I never liked Urlacher. So but it brought it to my attention because he's a Bears fan.
Yeah, and Wilbur Marshall will be in the Hall one day too. He belongs in there now. But he'll be in there one day. So they'll have a bunch of, they won't have the entire '85 Bears defense in there, but they'll come close one day. Wilbur Marshall was my favorite player growing up, and he belongs in the Hall for sure. So there's a couple more out there that'll eventually find their way in.
I thought you'd be like a Gary Fensick guy or Richard Dent. You aren't you like an old school bar over the face mask kind of guy?
Yeah, I liked Gary Fensick. Yeah, the late Dave Jurison. Dent. He was great. Obviously, Mike Singletary was probably the most famous player in some ways on that defense in terms of the one that everybody remembers really closely. But there were so many good players. Otis Wilson, Wilbur Marshall. Just people should just go watch it sometime, the highlights of that team, and they will see that it was, different than any. And I know there's been statistically better defenses. The Ravens had a better defense in 2000, but there just hasn't really been anything quite like that team and that defense. It was pretty special.
We're talking with Sam McKewon from the Omaha World-Herald. Sam, I'm going to change gears here on you a little bit because I don't have a lot to say about the '85 Bears, but
that's good.
It's good. It's good.
I do have a little bit to say about what we saw in Lincoln yesterday with one of the. I don't have a better one. One of the better women's basketball crowds we've probably ever seen in this state. With Caitlin Clark coming to town, seemed like through 3 quarters she was destined to break that record, and then Nebraska happened in the 4th quarter. How, I guess, put into context for me how important and how big of a day that was for Amy Williams and her team.
Really important. It was, one of those moments that could change the trajectory of the program. We'll see. They play Ohio State Wednesday night, and that team might be better than Iowa. But we'll see. I think that was
the only other team
really
to beat Iowa, so you might be right.
Right. Really important game, though, to be able to send out to recruits and say, this is what we can do. I would say that, Nebraska's got good coaching. They need better players. And for much of yesterday, Iowa just had the best player on the floor. Everyone else, I think, was pretty evenly matched, to be honest with you. I think Nebraska's probably the better team if you take Caitlin Clark out of it. But for a lot of that game, Caitlin dictated a lot of what was going on. And then in the fourth quarter, I don't know. They're never going to say, the coach, we didn't get a chance to talk to her. She was upset. I think they thought that their lead was safe. And I think that they thought, well, you know what? Let's just go ahead and take this show back to Iowa City and break the record on Thursday. And they shouldn't have done that. I think they should have just went ahead and put the gas pedal down and finished the game. They got a little ponderous late. They kind of threw it around, and players are kind of looking at the shot, not sure if they're going to shoot it. And it just gave Nebraska enough room to make its run. And then I think Iowa got tight, and then they just started missing shots. And, so it was Nebraska. I think it was also Iowa really melted down and just didn't play well at the end. And on some level, that's as big of a deal to Nebraska fans as Nebraska winning. I think the feeling that people have about her, about Caitlin Clark, about that team and that coach, it all kind of fit perfectly yesterday. It was a very meaningful way to have that game in, because for 3 quarters, that was let's be clear, that was Iowa City West.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Iowa fans were louder than the Nebraska fans. The Nebraska fans were kind of sitting there. They were kind of taking it, and it was pretty interesting. And then Nebraska kind of makes that run at the end, so it was a big moment for Williams, and also a big moment for the program.
Sam, let me ask you something. Well, I got 2 things, so I'm going to try to be efficient here, which is not the DB way. I remember this is maybe a year ago, I was talking to Jessica Cootie, and we were talking about Jazz Shelley. And I said, and I've said this, I've talked about this reference before, but I'm a comic book guy, and I like this reluctant hero thing. I'm a big Daredevil guy. Like, reluctantly, he kind of defends, and he's the hero of like Hell's Kitchen. Jazz Shelley reminds me of Daredevil. She's like this. She could be a superstar, but it's not. It doesn't seem like it's in her nature. She's very other-centered. Sometimes I want her to shoot more or take more control of games. When you look at her response in crunch time, and yesterday wasn't the first time, it was just the most notable because it was the number 2 team in the country.
Yeah.
How many times do you look at her during the course of a game and say, hey, you know what? Like, you're capable of doing that more. I think you should. But it doesn't fit with kind of what she means to that team. Or does it?
No, that's a great point. And I think Amy Williams would say the same thing, that she wants Jazz to shoot more. And yeah, I think that's evident to people who have watched her for 3 years, that, when she goes to what's interesting is when she goes to play professional basketball, wherever it is, she's going to be a shooter. I don't anticipate she's going to be a point guard.
Mm-hmm.
So she better get used to it. So, I think she could shoot more, and she could probably score more. I do know that they have a huge emphasis on getting the ball to Alexis Marowski and getting paint touches for her. And so I think Jazz is
she was so good on the glass late yesterday. That's going to fly under the radar. Marowski.
Yeah. Yeah, she plays very, very hard. So one of the things that I think, and I've written about this a couple weeks ago or something. Nebraska, I mean, Jazz kind of can blow by players, but she's not Caitlin Clark. And so, like, what makes Caitlin really good and will make her really good in the NBA, WNBA, is she actually can go by anybody. And so if you think that you're going to play her, going to the left and doing the 3-point thing, and you're going to overplay that, she'll score 35 at the rim. She's not afraid to do that. Jess can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
That's not something that she can do. And so, they have to work for shots a little bit more. And so I think there's a kind of like, hey, let's find the open shot instead of taking a slightly contested shot. And the reality is that the game-winning shot was a contested 3, and Jess can make those quite often and probably needs to take them a little bit more often. She did on Sunday, and they won the game. I think they have a player coming who can get by almost anybody. I'm not going to call her Caitlin Clark, but she can get by almost anyone in Britt Prince, and that will help because once you have somebody, kind of like
they do have some similarities. I don't think that's far fetched, Sam. I've watched Britt since she's been in the 6th grade.
Mm-hmm. They have some, and I think, I'll have a story comes out later, but Nebraska doesn't want to put that on her, and I don't blame them for not wanting to because Britt, personality-wise, not the same.
Yeah, I was gonna say you talk about a reluctant superstar, like that's definitely BP.
Right, but she can get by people, and that matters. You have to have players, especially. Well, it's true in men's basketball too.
She's ambidextrous.
You got to have players who can get by everybody, and if you have that, then all of a sudden it changes everything else on the court, and that's the one thing that Iowa has that Ohio State has it too. People who watch that game on Wednesday night will see that Ohio State has 3 or 4 players who can do it. It's probably the thing that Creighton, which is probably a 5 or 6 seed, is kind of missing. They don't have that player who can get all the way to the rim with great consistency, and so they have to make shots, and Creighton often does, but they don't necessarily have somebody who can get to the cup over and over.
Sam, should I apologize for? Me, I'm the king of toxic masculinity, or maybe I should offset it and say I'm the queen of toxic masculinity. But for fear of wanting to keep this job for another day, the comps that I give for Clark are mostly male related, right? She shoots it better than LeBron and Magic, but she sees the floor equally as well. She's a great passer. She has the range of like a Steph Curry, but he doesn't have near as many assists per pass attempt. So like I find myself giving male references. I watched yesterday at PBA how all these little girls are rocking Iowa gear. Even a significant amount of people from Omaha, these little girls rocking Iowa gear. She's changing. She's doing like a Tiger Woods, kind of a Serena Williams thing where she has this young audience that is captivated by her. Is she just so good I shouldn't apologize for the male comparisons, or do I need to be better? Because that's really all I can think of.
Well, I mean, I think there are female comparisons to make. For Diana Taurasi is one.
She's better than Taurasi, though.
Well, one of the challenges that we have is that Caitlin plays for a team where she's better than everybody on the team. And Connecticut.
Although Martin and Stokey, they're pretty good. No, I'm kidding.
At UConn, that wasn't always the case.
Yeah.
You had players playing with each other who were equally good, and then you go to the WNBA and, different things happen. So I would say that Caitlin Clark is the second best player she's the best player that I've ever seen play against Nebraska. The best one was a gal by the name of Alyssa Thomas, who played for Maryland. I don't know, 12 years ago, and I think she's been a WNBA MVP or something like that. She was really good.
I knew Maryland. Yes, DP.
It doesn't, not that many players come along that have some of the skill sets that Clark has. And I'm not sure that, and Amy Williams, who, if you're talking to her just one-on-one, can give you a really good rundown of why Caitlin Clark's good. And it's not just like, oh, she's really good. I mean, she could talk for 4 minutes about it because she's had to scout her, for 100 hours. And so there are not many players who can do those things all equally well. And so it's reasonable when you see somebody who might be the best that we've ever seen to have those kinds of conversations. I think it's Jazz. I don't know is the biggest fan of Caitlin Clark, and I don't blame her for that. She's the one player who could probably have the most insight because she played with Sabrina Ionescu for 2 years, and those are probably the two that you would compare. And maybe there'll be a moment where you can ask about that now that they've beaten Iowa. So, she's probably the one that has the best perspective on comparing those two. But no, Clark is, she's one of one. She's the one fun. And sometimes as a sports writer, people are very hesitant to say that because, well, let me go through my catalog of memories and equivocate. No, she's the best. She's the best that I've ever seen, and she's the best that I think there's ever been. And that's hard for people to say, but I think that'll bear out when she goes to the WNBA as well.
We're talking with Sam McKewon from the Omaha World-Herald. Sam, want to change gears on you here a little bit and ask about Tony White. Obviously, his name's been mentioned in connection with that UCLA job. What is your level of concern that Tony White ends up leaving for UCLA?
Moderate. I think it's going to come down to, I think that's a job that it's reasonable for Tony White to take. It's his alma mater. It's a Power 4 job. I think there are things about that job that if he really thinks about it are going to be hard for him to win there. I think hard for anybody to win there based on where they play, even though they play in the coolest stadium, the proximity of that to their training facilities, the continuing and relative difficulty to build a roster, how he would assemble a coaching staff, quickly. That would be a real rebuild because Chip Kelly Chip Kelly was doing it with fewer players than most people do. And he was kind of keeping it together with his own system. And that's a lot to expect Tony White to say, well, I'm going to be Chip Kelly. I mean, that's a lot. I mean, Chip Kelly's been a head coach for a long time. So now, if I were UCLA, I don't know that Tony White's first on my list, and that's not a knock on Tony. I think you have to really think about, okay, is there a current sitting head coach that we also like that would take this job? And I'll tell you what, if they had fired Chip Kelly 2 months ago, I think Jed Fish would be their head coach, the guy that's at Washington now. But Chip Kelly decided, no, and actually I'm going to get out in front of this and I'm going to put it to you guys. And so I think UCLA's, a little bit, they tried to go get PJ Fleck. I guess that didn't work. And so I don't know. I mean, Tony White could get that job very quickly because I don't know how many coaches are going to want that job. Sitting head coaches are going to want that job, and I don't think Barry Odom would turn it down. I just don't know if Barry Odom, is a better pick than Tony White. I mean, Tony White at least knows every single person in Los Angeles. He can recruit to the school. Simultaneously, there's been some guys that could recruit to UCLA who were not successful there, and so you have to think long and hard about whether that's something that you really want to do. And I think he'd have a hard time turning it down. I just think it's a hard job to win at if you're a brand new head coach. He would need a lot of things to fall into place.
Sammy Mack. Now I know full disclosure. I know I'm privy to all the things that went into the USC defensive coordinator job. And so I'm coming at this from that angle, right? The 11.5 hour, the decision, the thought process. And I say all that to say, Sam, I almost wonder, and I'm not going to call him and see, but can a guy know too much? Do you think? Can he be too, as my old boss, Jay Noddle, used to say, I'm going to handicap you with the facts. Can he know the shortcomings? Can he know what it's like to go against SC? Can he see where they're at? Can he see that it's a short turnaround to put its staff together? Can that offset going back home? Because it just seems like he's so calculated. Maybe I'm just talking myself into there's no way he'd be rushed.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's entirely possible.
I don't know, right? I don't know.
There's flaws in every job. I mean, almost every job. And so, there's drawbacks to that job. At the same time, it's a Power 4 job, and it's probably paying $5 million. And so he'll have to make the assessment of, can I win here? Because if you can win there, then you get to stay there. And if you win there, then you can go somewhere else. But if you lose there, the next head coaching job, if you don't win at UCLA, is probably not as good of a job. Or it's a really bad situation like Carl Durrell. His second head coaching job was at Colorado, and he took over a mess. He took over a total disaster. So, this is one of those moments. And I think what Matt Rule would tell him is you need to put yourself in a position where the job that you take, their expectations align with their commitment. And does UCLA's expectations, does UCLA expect to win a Big Ten championship? They probably shouldn't. They should probably expect to win, 8 games. Obviously, Chip Kelly did not feel like the expectations aligned with the commitment. And as a result, he left. And so Tony White needs to make that decision. And then UCLA needs to decide they're okay with not hiring a sitting head coach. If I were UCLA, I think, looking at a sitting head coach that's been a head coach for a while is probably something I would consider.
Yeah, you got Len, you got Chadwell, you got Reese.
Chadwell's the White. One that when Sam was talking about a guy that could hold it together with a system, Chadwell's the guy whose name popped into my mind.
Sam, thoughts?
Sure. I mean, that's fine. If you want to hire an offense, you can do that. Again, it's a tricky job because it's not a Pac-12 job anymore.
Yep.
So you're not selling a kid on, playing up and down the coast. You're selling a kid on playing in the best league, and they'll say it's the best league in college football. I think the SEC is slightly better, but they'll just say, hey, this is the best league in college football. This is the training ground for the NFL, and so you have to recruit nationally. You're going to have to recruit a little bit more than just Southern California. Are you prepared to do it? All those things. That's the challenge.
That's Sam McKewon from the Omaha World-Herald. Great stuff, Sam. As
Good stuff,
always,
Sam.
We will talk to you again next week.
Take care.
Appreciate it.
That's Sam McKewon from the Omaha World-Herald. DB.
It's a lot in there.
Lot in there. I want to get back to the Tony White stuff.
Okay.
Coming up. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We will have more of Hurrdat Sports Radio on AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back.
Shelley throws down low. Marowski kicks it out to Jazz, knocked away by Marshall. The right elbow. Shelley throws crazy at PDA. Listen to this crowd. The right elbow. Shelley throws down low. Marowski kicks it out to Jazz. Knocked away by Marshall. 7 to shoot. 6 to shoot. Shelley for 3. You betcha! The right.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We're halfway through the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi, Lulla, and we're brought to you by our friends at Dyer Law. If you've been hurt in a personal injury accident, you can count on the Dyer Law team to provide you with a helping hand if and when you need it, no matter what you're dealing with. Call the Dyer Law team at 402-393-7529 or visit dyer.law to chat with trusted professionals about your personal injury claim. That's DYER.law. Now,
you've gotten so good at that without me.
Well, I'm doing some practice, you know.
I feel like you're all grown up. Good to be back out in central and western Nebraska, too. Doug Duda was the first to reach out.
Yeah.
And he was like a couple of days early.
You really?
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know how it all went down. I guess kind of dicey. I was like,
I mean, I'll be honest. I was on pins and needles until I got the contract backside from you.
my favorite, bless his heart, because he's on the cruise, and I know Sasha's personality a lot more because I've worked with her.
Yeah, you've known Sasha forever.
Ever.
Yeah.
Right. So when she says, "Hey, basically, what are we waiting on?"
Yeah.
I knew that I had a couple of things to still do, and Chris goes almost like 30 minutes later. So I'm like, they must be in the office. He goes, really need to get moving here. Would want to do this, and this. And that's really, like, he's typically pretty cool, right?
Yeah,
he doesn't. So then I felt bad. I was like, oh gosh, like I got to make these calls. I still got one more. I got to go drive. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
So then it was like, but hopefully he's having a good time because he's vacationing for all intents and purposes.
Yeah, I think he's on a cruise, which you could not get me on a cruise.
Yeah, I did that once.
Did you?
Yeah.
Not in a million years. Would not do it.
Yeah. So 2 things that I remember. Number one, that's no longer my significant other.
Sure.
Number 2, I was lifting before.
Yeah.
And I sandwiched my thumb in between putting dumbbells back.
Oh, that's bad.
So it was an abnormally. It looked like a chicken drumstick. And so this probably is TMI, but it's totally DB.
Yeah.
Right. My thumb was bad, and the bathrooms in cruise ships are extremely small.
Okay. Like bathroom or like an airplane?
Very narrow,
Yeah.
A little bigger, but not much.
But in the same neighborhood.
So my range was not good.
Yeah.
And angles were not good.
Okay.
So, because I couldn't use my thumb. Yes. So basically I didn't eat.
That's not great.
No, because that's a
like
lot
half
of
the
what
reason
cruises
going on
are.
a cruise, right? Is the,
Oh yeah,
all you do is eat and
I'll
drink.
never forget that.
Yeah,
Because for me, hygiene is it's.
Oh
like,
yeah. You're clean freak.
Hygiene is 1. Food is 2.
Yeah.
1A. So that's really.
If they'd been flipped, then you would have eaten.
So
but-
that's really like you really want to know what I did in 5 months outside of like Stark, Rezak, and my buddy Adam is I learned how to cut meat, vacuum seal.
Okay. You were talking about like doing some sous vide the other day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I got very, very, very cost efficient.
Oh, nice.
I
Yeah.
learned a ton.
Yeah.
And I'd lived on TikTok.
Which is probably less healthy than the other ones.
No, it's good.
Well, you do a lot. You're like on recipe TikTok.
You should. I could give you my. I just give you my phone, and you could scroll through my FYP, and it's
just
one.
gonna-
It's one of 3 things, guaranteed. It's either some sort of motivational saying,
okay,
like how to attack life, food,
yeah,
or what's the third?
I mean, I don't think it's sports. I think it is. Ooh, motivational is going to be my second one. I don't know what the third one is.
Home workouts.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah.
Like I can do things with my body that I'm like, that's all it took?
Just out here doing like some Pilates.
I wonder how much money I wasted on memberships. And I only go to budgeting because it's free. It's like, really? Oh, ouch, that hurt.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, just your own body.
Yeah.
But I do have to invest in a bigger rubber ball.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like probably the biggest one.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
I want that one.
I think so.
It got lost. I thought we used to have one.
It's gone.
Yeah, I have no idea. Probably didn't make the move.
I would say if you made a move, you probably, a lot of times things don't make the cut.
It's like whatever. And speaking of making moves, I got to ask you something.
Yeah,
because
we're talking about Tony White.
Yeah, you're very good at personality traits.
Okay.
So, without just generally speaking, just talking to T-Dub or Coach White, whenever the SC thing was. So this was the first day that they could kind of get back out on the road. So he came that Friday. I think the SC thing broke on Tuesday, Wednesday. He'd flown out there. He decided Thursday night and was back. Okay. And he came to Westside the very next morning. And before we even walked in the building, that place has like 75 trillion hallways.
Yes.
I still can't get around that building.
The only place I can go is I can go to the gym. I know how to get to the gym. I know how to get the bathroom from the gym, and then I can get back out. That's the only place I go.
So there's 2 people. Well, there's 3. Rezak, obviously, but he wasn't up there.
Yeah.
Officer Kilgore.
Yep.
Who's our SR, my guy.
Yeah.
And faculty, Linda Seals. She knows where everything is. So I always ask for shortcuts and stuff. And so I wanted to walk the long way in because I wanted to talk to him. And I asked, I was like, hey, I just want to talk to you. I got a couple questions because obviously when I'm emotionally invested.
Yeah. You have a kid that's thinking about
I'm connected, right?
Yeah.
Like I want to know. So can I just talk to you? Can you just shoot me straight? Super gracious. Yes. He's walking me through how it all went down and him doing his due diligence, and that took some time and talking with Lincoln Riley and stuff. And so it kind of gave me a snapshot into his personality. And so I asked Sam, I'm like, somebody that is that attention to detail specific, because we literally were on the back. We probably talked 35 minutes before we met Caleb.
Okay.
So that's a long time to be in the building shooting the breeze, right?
Yeah.
Especially when it's just two people.
Mm-hmm.
Can you make a decision that quick, do you think? Because I really don't know. I'm curious if you could. Or is it different because one was a coordinator job, DC, but the other was a head coach?
So I think it does make a difference. And I think the other thing is the pull of the alma mater. I think that's a factor with UCLA.
I'm telling you, that's way overrated.
Okay, fair.
Well, let's just look. Proof is in the pudding.
Okay.
There are a lot more Frost than there are Harbaughs.
No, I don't mean from UCLA standpoint. I mean from Tony White's standpoint.
Okay,
that's fair. That's fair. No, I mean I get it. But
I'm back in Florida. I'm going to stand my ground.
Jeez.
Sorry.
That's a reference. But I think you can make a decision that fast, to be on to answer your question. Because for me, a lot of it is like a vibe check more than anything else. So whoever I'm going to be working with, whether it's the AD, whether it's the other people on staff, whether it's Lincoln Riley, right? I can pick up on how I feel about the vibe of a person pretty quickly. And sometimes I can fool myself because I think the opportunity is good or good enough that I'm like, no, I could probably work with that person. But deep down, I always know it's like, yeah, that's probably not a good call. And sometimes you make that call anyway, but I think you know pretty quickly, at least from me. I don't know if other people operate that way, but I'm guessing Tony White pretty quickly either picked up on, not that Lincoln Riley's a bad guy or anything, just, hey, yeah, I don't know that we would work well together. Or
so, I mean, it was everything, like weight room, like everything.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be amplified as a head?
You would think so.
Although you'd have more autonomy to change it if you wanted.
You have more autonomy to change it.
Okay.
You also have autonomy to delegate to people you trust.
Okay.
But
you think he's got a pretty big tree?
I don't know.
I
don't either. I would say probably not yet because he hasn't been that guy for that long yet. But I really don't have a feel on what his network looks like because that was one of the big issues with Frost. We can keep going into this as we wrap up our
it's a lot, man.
Here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Juszczyk and Kittle are tight left. Purdy back. Purdy throws and is caught by Juwan Jennings. Breaks a tackle. Touchdown! San Francisco!
Wrapping up hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube as well. That's DB. I'm Ravi, Lulla, and we are brought to you by our friends at Team Jack Foundation. Team Jack has raised over $12 million to date and counting, with the focus of finding better treatments for kids fighting brain cancer and one day finding a cure. The treatments currently used are decades old and highly toxic. Even if a child survives, they are often left with lifelong issues because of that treatment. Team Jack is trying to find a better way, partnering with some of the best institutes in the country, including our very own Nebraska Medical Center, with their creation of a Nebraska childhood brain tumor program. If you want to get involved, get teamjackfoundation.org. They've got events. You can donate right there on the page. All sorts of information on how to get involved with Team Jack.
Yeah, all bias aside, because it's right in my backyard. Been trying to get my sister-in-law connected with the folks from Team Jack, which was at her behest early on with my niece Lennox, who is just 14 months old. On her second round of chemo. She's a fighter, though.
That's a lot.
She is a little cutie pie. She's got some blastoma that she's dealing with. They took her kidney early in January. She had some lesions in the lungs, 14 of them, not that I'm counting, but it had not gotten to the brain. So she's something else. I took her some mac and cheese because she kind of, like, her appetite kind of comes and goes. And Jill asked me, I don't know where everybody else was, but I'm glad Jill could ask me, right? That's Jay's sister. And she's like, hey, this is probably 3 or 4 weeks ago. And she had RSV at the same time.
Oh, gosh.
And so Jill's mother-in-law was at the hospital. It was just her and Lennox. And she had on Nebraska gear, and she's not from here, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
She's like, hey. And she's cool, Byron's mom. And so I dropped off some mac and cheese.
Yeah.
And Lennox was kind of, but she kind of sat up. Like you could
Perked up a little
tell
bit.
she recognized the mac and cheese. So it's the little things. So
Yeah.
I'm big. I obviously emceed a couple events for Team Jack, and that's how I kind of got close to Rex and things like that. So cancer sucks, man.
Yeah.
It's
so hard when kids, especially when they're that young, like Lennox has no idea what's going on, really,
No.
at that age.
She got her out. Jill brought Lennox to a game because she wanted to watch Caleb. Oh, it's probably about a week ago, and she's obviously lost her hair, and she's a little cutie pie, and she has these big blue eyes. She totally has, actually both, because Byron he used to play soccer at Creighton.
Oh yeah.
Super guy.
Yeah.
Right. So Lennox kind of has this head piece on, and she is so stinking cute. And I'm like, from the time that she's been born, she's a fighter.
Mm-hmm.
Like she's kind of tough.
Yeah.
She has an older brother, Dax, who's amazing. He's a big Paw Patrol guy. He's like 3. I got to show you this video. He's trying to make layups after the game the other night, but he has no ball. So he's just out on the court. He's just doing his hand.
Fake layups.
But yeah, man. So anything you could do to support Team Jack and on like a personal note, like that's one that's super near and dear
For sure.
To my heart. So just another one of those things that happened over 5 months where you're like, oh man, there's got to be more to life than what I'm really doing. Am I in my sweet spot? But I gotta ask you though. All right, as we kind of transition, because that was a little heavy, and I told myself I was not gonna cry on day one. Not gonna cry.
And to your point though, I mean, so I think we all do that a lot sometimes. When you do sports stuff for a living, I think a lot of times we wonder how much it matters. Right? Like how much is what we're doing actually
That
matter?
was huge.
Yeah.
That was huge back in September.
And I think
Like,
part of that is because I thought about it when I was coaching, when I was in the coaching game. I think I've thought about it when I was doing this. And I think what happens is Team Jack Foundation's a terrific example of why it matters, right? Sports allowed Jack Hoffman and Team Jack and that family to become a thing. We probably don't know his name.
Ravi, I didn't have any words doing the broadcast
for
BTN on the run, except for, wow, there's no place like Nebraska.
Right.
And like that's as prophetic as I could muster.
And like
real time.
I understand that, the score and the results of any one individual game probably don't matter long term, right?
Yeah.
But I talked to our guy K-Dub, right? I talked to his podcast about like part of the reason I do this is like there was a time when like listening to you in the mornings in the previous life when I wasn't doing this was the best part of my day when I was having a hard time.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it hurt my heart when Schick and Nick and that got the first reference. I was like, wait, I thought you always wanted to work with me. What happened?
No,
I was like, nope, I'm boycotting Ravi.
No, that was just the first show I listened to, right? And so it was, and so that's why
Kendall will go there too, won't he?
Will, yeah.
You gotta be careful because he can get emotional on you.
He will.
He's a heart connector.
But I think kind of tying it back into the Tony White stuff, I think that has a lot to do with the decisions that these guys make a lot of times, and we don't always factor that in.
100%.
Right? We don't always factor in. Okay, like I think we are starting to see it with the way Coach Rule operates and the way he talks about, being in a place like Nebraska where it matters so much here. Mm-hmm. But I don't know that we always talk about it when we talk about like a Tony White maybe leaving for USC or maybe leaving for UCLA, right? But you had something you wanted to ask me about Tony White.
Yeah, so let me just give you because I think this is interesting because he's such a deep thinker. Mm-hmm. Like he's a philosopher by nature, even the way he recruits. And he doubled down again last month with Christian. Mm-hmm. And remember, they rolled out the cavalry.
Yeah.
Right? Like T9, he's great, by the way.
Cavalry, not Calvary. Calvary's a different place.
Oh, is that biblical?
Yeah.
The Mount, like Sinai? They rolled out the crew.
Yeah.
Wow, you're on my enunciation this morning.
That's
I see nothing's changed. You're still a bully.
Always have been.
I thought you said
Calgary, like in Canada.
The no. Hey, my former mother-in-law used to say Calgary, and I looked at her with my head tilted, like, where's that? But she knows more about that part of the world than
probably.
I do. Right? Leave the Canadians to the Canadians. Leave Canada to the Canadians. But anyway, so like if he's very, very deliberate, and he's thoughtful, and he chooses his words very carefully. Now, remember, he's the guy that during his coach's clinic, at the very end of he's talking about defenses and situationally how he can change. Hey, this is what we did against Notre Dame. This is a different game plan than we did against this team. And, during COVID and, the George Floyd saga, we were losing guys and we had to do this. So he really gave me, everybody else is worried about X's and O's. I'm like, oh my gosh, my kid's going to play for him. This is it.
Well, right? That matters more than the X's.
Oh, 100%. So he's talking about these stories, and on his very last slide on his presentation was a bunch of random names, and only 2 I recognized because they were coaches, and I won't say who they are. And he said, you might want to know what this last slide is. These were all the people that were instrumental in helping me get to where I am. One of them was a head coach at the rival high school when he was committed to San Diego State. The coach of the rival school told Terry Donahue
at UCLA,
you need to go see this guy. If Tony White, like, he's a stud. He ruined our lives.
Yeah.
A week later, he flips and gets the
UCLA offer.
And signing date was like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So I knew he was a connector, right? So he's evaluating these programs, and I watch how he teaches defense. Hey, 45-degree back pedal, not straight back 90. That 45 buys you a little more time because you can turn and open up. Hey, 6-inch eyes, right? You can go from swivel to swivel where you can see what's happening in front of you. Hey, when we're in 3, don't peek for the landing spot. Feel for it. All these little intricacies that 100% matter.
Yeah.
I just wonder, can he do his due diligence in this amount of time and not be swayed by the emotion or the allure of a head job?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good question because
this is who he is, right? You listen to him talk.
Yeah.
Like, how thoughtful. He's like a violent Socrates. And I don't know if Socrates killed anyone, right? I mean,
back in the day.
Are you a philosopher?
Yeah.
Wait, you don't think the same as I do? He's out.
Yeah.
Right? Feed him a poison grape or whatever those guys did. But like, he's very, very thoughtful.
I kind of made this analogy a couple weeks ago, but it's kind of like when you're buying a house. You're making the biggest purchase of your life, and you see that house 2, maybe 3 times before you actually sign those papers, right? I mean, that's about right.
Right.
Like, you spend more time trying on a pair of jeans usually than you do when you're trying to buy a house. It's kind of the same thing when you're trying to figure out if a coaching job is right for you. He doesn't get a lot of time to make one of the biggest decisions of his life. He doesn't get a lot of time to feel it out. And so would he like more time? I guarantee yes, the way he thinks. Is he going to get more time? No, absolutely not. And so basically you're trying to make the best decision possible with bad or incomplete information. And so you have to, at that point, you do have to trust your gut almost, but you have to trust your gut, not your emotions. That's a different thing to me.
I still feel like we got to revisit this.
We will.
I want to give you some resumes.
Coming up next, we've got Andy Marowski, former Husker, father of Alexis Marowski, and we will talk a little Husker women's basketball here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back.
Knocked away by Marshall. 7 to shoot, 6 to shoot. Shelley for 3. Betcha! Right now, everybody is
radio.
Listen to this crowd.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Here to see if Caitlin Clark can set the record. But right now, everybody is trying to see if Nebraska can pull the major upset on national TV here today. Nisley on top with 15 to shoot. Dribbles against Clark. The right elbow. Shelley throws down low. Marowski kicks it out to Jazz. Knocked away by Marshall. 7 to shoot. 6 to shoot. Shelley for three. You betcha! Huskers take their first lead of the game with 30 seconds left. You betcha! Huskers take the lead over second-ranked Iowa. 30 seconds to go, and they are going crazy at PBA. Listen to this crowd.
Kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. And for our third hour, we're on KFOR in Lincoln as well. Speaking of Lincoln, had a nice little basketball game yesterday afternoon. Joining us now to talk about that on the Warhorse Sportsbook hotline is Andy Marowski. Andy, how are you this morning?
Yeah, doing great, fellas.
AM, how are you this morning, man? You usually keep it pretty steady, Eddie, but Dad had to catch up with you a little bit yesterday, at least, didn't it?
Yeah, that one was fun. Certainly listening to Iowa people and having a little skin in the game on having a daughter playing in that rivalry, and they had lost 7 in a row, even though there was times over the last 3 years. They've played Iowa tough for long stretches, but I knew Alex wanted that one, and great crowd, and ended up being a fantastic finish, and certainly one to remember.
Andy, you've been around a bunch of different Nebraska sporting events over the years. Where does you mentioned the crowd there, where does that kind of rank in terms of an atmosphere? I know it was kind of strange because a lot of people were there to see a player not on Nebraska in Caitlin Clark, but towards the end there, as Nebraska was able to come back in the fourth quarter, you kind of really felt the pro-Nebraska crowd come out. Just how did you how was that atmosphere compared to some of the others?
Was probably unique. In a home environment, you tend to have some opposing fans, but certainly there was, a lot of Iowa fans, still more Nebraska. I was telling the story back in 98, 99 season. Creighton had beat us in 97 at Creighton, and then we had played them, at home in the Advantage Center in 98. I think they were ranked in the top 25, and I remember that was really the first time there was 4,000 or 5,000 Creighton fans in Devaney, and it kind of took me back to that, where just kind of a back and forth game where each crowd base you could hear, and having PBA sold out. Certainly the Caitlin Clark factor played throughout the game, right? From our fans, not rooting for her, not wanting her to get the record, and then the outcome of the game, certainly was in play, late in that game. So there's a lot of different dynamics to follow, but certainly fun. Give Husker Nation a lot of credit, because I thought Iowa felt pressure. When they went diamond and one late, and they there was players from Iowa that just would not shoot the basketball. I just felt like good shooters that just, I think, felt a little bit of that pressure. I think they felt the pressure of the Caitlin record. Do we pass it to her and let her score? I think there was a lot of dynamics that played out that last 4 minutes. But for the people that showed up, I've heard stories of different sporting events, youth sporting events, where people stopped to watch it on kind of a concourse TV in some of these places around the state, and just kind of that mixed dynamic of Iowa people and Nebraska people watching a game together, and Nebraska came out on the good side. So just fantastic for everybody.
Hey, let me ask you something, because I think you mentioned something about, Kate Martin, who had shot it well, missed two really good looks late. Stokey missed a bunny, where Alexis really, I thought, was disruptive late, kind of on recovery defense. People may not realize Iowa only shot, I think they were 4 of 17 in the fourth quarter. Undersold that Nebraska was so good defensively in their effort, or do you feel like the action changed or the complacency set in with Iowa offensively?
Yeah, the diamond and one was disruptive. It if you look at Stelke getting 46 against Penn State, a lot of that came off of guard penetration, where they were able to dump that down to her. That that diamond took that away. It took the high ball screen away. With Clark, they tend to put Alexis in our forehand
ball screen, yeah,
and high ball screen, and it took that away. Martin was really the one player that stayed aggressive. Clark, really just didn't free herself for many looks, and they ended up subbing one guard out and brought Furlick in, just because they refused to shoot kind of the open corner three. And, if they were up 10, I think those kids probably take that open shot. But once it got to 6 and then 4, you start feeling that game pressure. All that, Damon, changed based on that, just that adjustment that Coach Williams and staff made. And then I do think the record played into it. I think Iowa tends to defer to Caitlin, and I don't know what, if they wanted her to keep scoring to get the record, or they felt the pressure of trying to get her the basketball. And I think the pressure of the record hurt Caitlin. She took a really bad shot with 20 seconds. I don't know if she thought we were going to foul her on the catch. We had a foul to give, that deep three that she airballed, before the final possession. I thought that was a strange sequence where, the pressure, I think maybe got to her a lot, right? Which for 22-year-old to take on the tension and the pressure and what she's gone through with her own security detail. I think all that plays into it. And, and sometimes it's just a slight advantage in some of that pressure, and it played out for Nebraska's favor.
We're talking with Andy Markowski, former Husker, father of Alexis Markowski, who had just another casual double-double, 15 and 11. Decided to toss in 4 assists and 3 steals just for fun in there as well. But, it's kind of funny you mentioned Caitlin Clark and the pressure getting to her a little bit, because I do agree there. But it's also kind of funny to say, yeah, I think she maybe didn't play that well. Pressure got to her. Oh, by the way, she still had 31 in that effort. But you mentioned that she goes scoreless in the fourth quarter. I believe that's the first time in her career she has gone scoreless in the fourth quarter. Just how impressed were you with the composure of Nebraska and not letting the pressure get to them as they're down big in the fourth quarter? I mean, I don't know that anybody had 27-10 in the fourth quarter on their bingo card. Like, that was an incredible effort down the stretch for Nebraska.
Yeah, I agree. And, you hope a game like this can be a catalyst to this group, which, I think a couple things played into that. I do think the fact that we have played Iowa tight through stretches. I mean, 2 years ago, at their place, Lex's freshman year, we played them to 4. Last year at their place, we played them to 6. This year at halftime, it was going to be a 1-point game, and then we kind of let the end of the half get away from us. So I think this group believed that they could play with Iowa, and then obviously some timely shots by Nitzley. I thought, Alexis had a really good third quarter to kind of keep you attached. And then, obviously Jazz finally getting herself going. Amy did a good job of putting Jazz and Lex in the ball screen. They were going to go under the ball screen. They could not switch that and get a mismatch with Alexis on the block. And that gave both Nitzley and Jazz some space in behind the ball screen to hit a couple big threes in the fourth. And then they started doubling Lex on the block, and she found, for her to get 4 or 5 assists were big. So there was, a lot of contributions from a lot of players, which you need. Potts, had a 6-0 run there in the third to keep them attached. So you can kind of go back and ask yourself, how did it play out? And we just had a lot of players have solid, good games. And, that's what, this team needs. And if you're going to beat the number 2 team in the country, you got to have multiple kids play well. Nebraska did.
Yeah, I thought Potts did a good job getting to a couple 50-50 balls where she'll get credited for rebounds too, which I felt like was interesting. But you mentioned a couple things, so let me encompass it in one question. The 2-man game with the high ball screen that allowed Nitzley and obviously Jazz to get going with Alexis, it's tough, right? You don't want to use drop coverage until they force you, if they're going to make jump shots, but they couldn't. Then they started to really hunker down on Lex, and Nebraska made shots. There's that. Then there's the fact that Nebraska got to play. They had 9. Coach Williams played 9 players that had double-digit minutes in terms of time played. How much do you think the coaching aspect is undersold with the individual performances on both sides? Coach Bluter and Coach Williams, where coaching in game was undervalued yesterday, given the environment and the record and all the other stuff.
Yeah, I think for the first time we won that battle. And like I said, a lot of it was, I thought the diamond was, was big and employed at the right time. And then, I do think we did a good job of we kept them from going zone. We had shot it well enough. They tend to go to their matchup, which has really stalled us in prior years. But Alexis really hurt their zone in Iowa. So I think they came in knowing that they couldn't, Alexis is big enough against Iowa. Stelke only at 6'1" to really throw over the top of their zone and get her some touches around the rim. So we kept them out of going zone because I think our perimeter kids had shot it well enough. To your point, Lex scored enough on the block where they had to start sending a double. And then,
she kept them in it in the third quarter. I mean,
yeah. Then the ability of her, then they were switching some of the ball screen, and then Alexis pick and popped. Well, they didn't switch. They kind of dropped coverage, Damon, as you mentioned, and she picked and popped and got a 3. So then they changed the cover there. So there was a lot of in-game adjustments that as a basketball coach, or you could follow maybe as a fan, not so much. But I thought Nebraska won that battle in the fourth quarter, and Iowa really never adjusted to the diamond. They didn't screen it. They didn't get Caitlin, any good shots. And I think Stelke might have had a basket in the fourth quarter. And if you take Clark and Stelke away from them, you're down to Kate Martin, which is a really good player, but you like your chances if Kate Martin is the only one on Iowa's team that's able to score in the fourth. And it proved out in our favor. And then you got to credit Jazz hitting a really tough shot and then making four. Until you're there at that free throw line and in a moment like that, the pressure of going 4 for 4, was a big reason why, Iowa needed to make a 3 versus a 2. That changes that landscape in that 30 seconds, which plays to our favor defensively, where you only have to defend, the 3 versus having to defend both the 2 and the 3. So, there's a lot of things that went right for us in the fourth quarter, and, I'm just happy for the group. And, now the reward is they get to go play a top 10 team at Iowa State on the road. So, it doesn't get any easier.
Let me ask you something. This is probably more your basketball mind than it is kind of the dad fan aspect, because, I mean, you've obviously broadcasted, you played, coached, you understand it. Do you sometimes look at Jazz? I'm curious, do you say, gosh, you're very capable, I'd like for you to be more aggressive? Or do you say, hey, you know what? I appreciate your versatility because we have a lot of pieces to the whole part.
Yeah, Jazz is immensely talented. Her versatility, the ability to pass, defend, rebound, really good shooter. I think sometimes she struggles. Right now teams are putting their best perimeter defender on her, right? And that's hard. I mean, Alexa's the same way, right? You get the best post defender, the second defender goes to Potts. And, Nebraska offense benefits at the 2 through 4 positions because teams are set up to take Jazz and Alexis away. I do think Jazz has struggled shooting the 3. Part of it is I think there's times she forces and takes some tough threes, which has hurt her confidence. But I thought she played in rhythm the Iowa game. I think Darian, helps Jazz get shots. So, having Darian, potentially back is going to be big for this team as they finish. But, Jazz is a top 10 player in this league. She, probably hadn't had that type of year up to the last couple weeks, but, to see the ball go in and start to get that confidence, we're going to need her to have a big stretch run if this team wants to, hopefully play themselves into a top 4 or 5 seed in the Big Ten tournament. And then, I think the goal is to try to play yourself up to the 6 or 7 line. That 8-9 game in the tournament is great. You get a potential winnable game in round 1, but then you get a 1 seed round 2 on their home court, which is always a challenge. So, I think, this team should have the goal to get a double bye in the Big Ten and play themselves up to the 6 line, which gives them a chance to maybe win 2 in the NCAA, which, you're in rare company at Nebraska if this team can play well down the stretch. And
hey, safe travels,
guys,
champ.
thanks.
Appreciate it.
Yep, thanks.
Andy Marowski joining us on the Warhorse Sportsbook Hotline. Interesting stuff there from Andy.
Yeah,
I'm glad we were able to talk to him because it's just kind of a different perspective on that. I mean, incredible victory last night, but as he mentioned, and Sam mentioned this too, now, it can either be a spark, as Andy said, to kind of send you into the rest of the remainder of the season here, or, there's a chance you just look back and be like, oh, that was a nice moment, but the season as a whole ends up being disappointing. I wonder, because Nebraska men's basketball is sort of in the same spot, right? They've got a couple really nice moments, whether it's Purdue and upsetting number 1 in the country, whether it's Wisconsin, who it seems
you do know Purdue is going to win a national championship, right?
I don't know. You feel good about that?
Yeah. I mean, it'll be them or Connecticut.
I think it's going to be UConn.
I mean, UConn is immensely versatile.
UConn scares me. I can't help but think.
I just think finally it's Purdue's year.
I just can't help but think that I
hate saying that, but
with Edie, they're going to find a bad matchup that makes him.
What are you going to do? Put him in ball screens?
You put him in ball screens. Yeah, I mean the same thing FDU did last year, right? You play a small lineup.
Did you see FDU against Wichita State yesterday?
No, I did not.
Yeah, they went to overtime. Now FDU or FAU pulled away.
No, not FA. When last year. FDU.
Oh, Fairleigh Dickinson. Okay,
yeah,
I thought you were talking about.
No. We're Purdue lost.
You. Okay, I'm
right?
with you. I'm with you.
If you get a small, versatile lineup against Zach Edey, he can become a liability.
I get it.
I just think there's going to be, and I don't know that I like the rest of their team enough.
I hear that with Creighton's drop coverage too, and at some point they got to guard you too.
They do, right? But
I'll take the more efficient guy near the hoop.
I get it,
typically,
but it does create a situation.
I get it
where you're trading twos for threes.
I'm with you.
Like if you go small ball lineup on a Purdue or on a Creighton, that makes it difficult. I mean, that's why Creighton.
I probably lean more towards Kawhi Leonard or DeMar DeRozan, where if you're efficient enough from two,
sure.
I think there are teams that can defy analytics.
But the thing with Kawhi Leonard or whatever, he's not a liability on the other end.
Right.
You can defy the analytics.
Although he kind of is now, but I get your point.
Yeah.
I 100% get your point.
Right. So that's where you get into trouble a little bit with Edey. Well, you can a lot with Edey, a little bit with Kalkbrenner. That's why Creighton struggles with some of those awkward bigs.
Yeah, but guess what, though? But like a Klingon or somebody like that is going to be a decent matchup. Now, I thought Kalk got bullied the last time in Connecticut.
Yeah.
I don't know if that will happen again.
I would guess not. He usually responds well.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
But the Edeys and those guys, they're built for guys like Klingon. It's the perimeter.
That's what I mean.
Guys. From an athleticism standpoint,
I'm not worried about a Klingon against Edey.
Purdue is much better there guarding than I think we're giving them credit for because they well, and I mean law of averages, right? He's got to figure out how to offset that. That's part of Painter's job.
Yeah,
is okay. I know I'm going to play. High ball screen action. You can put him in the middle of the floor. You can put it to the right, to the left. You're going to put him in a bind, right? He's uncomfortable out there. Like, I think they'll figure out how to work their way around that. And
if they do, they'll win a national championship.
Well, and Purdue's got to figure out, like every team's kind of got their thing, right?
There's one.
Kentucky doesn't shoot it well enough. Baylor shoots too many threes. Kansas doesn't have a good bench. I mean, McCullers has got to get the knee healthy. UConn doesn't have a ton of flaws.
Not a lot of flaws on UConn.
I worry about Carolina's guard depth.
Yeah.
Like, what happens if RJ Davis is not making enough tough shots? Like, they need another bucket getter.
Do you trust Baycott?
Yes.
Okay.
Especially given the matchup. Like, if we're talking about plus he's 25 or 24.
Yeah, I know.
Right. So do I trust him against some other bigs? Yeah, but there's a couple of other things I worry about.
More than that.
More than that. But like kind of every team has, you know who I like?
Who?
I like Tennessee.
Oh, okay.
I like their versatility.
Yeah.
And they have a guy that's on a heater right now.
Yes.
And he's a bucket getter, and you need one of those.
And he's big too. He's a big bucket getter. Like in college, most of these teams, their bucket getter is a small guard.
Yeah,
you've got like maybe a 6'1" point guard that can go get it, which can be challenging because you don't always get good shots with that guy. What is Dalton McNeck like? 6'7"?
Yeah.
I mean, he's at least 6'6".
Yeah.
And he's athletic and rangy. Like that dude's getting a shot off against anybody in college.
I'll take the national championship. Will come from Connecticut or West Lafayette.
Okay. I trust Connecticut. I trust UConn more than I do Purdue. I think Purdue has not necessarily a fatal flaw, but an obvious flaw if you can take advantage of it. I don't think UConn has an obvious flaw.
So, and I know it's an isolated example. Did Kansas, the way that they handled Baylor down the stretch, did that bother you, or do you think Harris and those guys are capable of better decisions managing the clock?
Kansas bothers me overall a little bit this year
because of their bench.
Well, because their bench and I've expected them to be better all year.
Did you tell Andrew that my preseason prediction was that Hunter Dickinson was player of the year?
I did not realize it could be RJ Davis too, but
yes,
no, he'll for sure be ACC
for
player
sure.
of the year.
Yeah, the problem with Kansas is I haven't seen them be great like consistently enough. I think if you just look at, I mean, you're right that the guard depth is a little I don't love, but if you're just talking, I mean, certainly just top 5.
Yeah, they're nice.
You're looking at, okay, maybe that's the best 5 in the country.
And Self is top 3-4 coach in the country.
Absolutely. And so I could see Kansas winning it in a tournament setting, right? Maybe UConn gets knocked off by somebody fluky that goes on a heater. Then all of a sudden it's like, oh, Kansas's path is pretty nice. Or, I could see that in terms of nothing weird or fluky happening. I mean, something weird's going to have to happen for me to think that UConn's not going to win the national title.
Do you like? I was talking to my buddy Degenerate Aaron, and because he's not in love with the Big East Conference, and I actually put them ahead of the Mountain West, and I'm not going to fight you over if they're ahead of the ACC. I'm sure statistically it's going to go, SEC, Big Ten.
Although the Big Ten is not this year is.
So it's going to go SEC, Big 12, Big 10, ACC, Mountain West, probably. Then the Big East. I would imagine.
You take the SEC over the Big 12? So I think the Big 12 might be the best conference in basketball this year. SEC gets more bites at the apple because they've got more teams. But I don't know. I'm having a hard time picking a conference.
At first blush, I probably would take Big 12. But let's say you put the Big East. Would you put the Big East ahead of the Mountain West?
I mean, it's hard because,
so you so just sitting here, because I kind of gave you, I don't know the exact order, but those would be the teams that you could make the debate for ahead of the Big East. So are you comfortable without knowing the data, analytics, saying the Big East is the 6th best conference in the country? Because it doesn't sound right out loud.
It doesn't, but it's probably close.
Probably right.
It's probably close.
Should we Google?
We'll do a little bit. We'll clean some stuff up here next on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Welcome back here to Hurrdat Sports Radio on AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, and KFOR in Lincoln. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. It's time now for the Warhorse Sportsbook Sports Cleanup. A lot to get to here. I wonder if we had any, they were doing the prop card challenge on Warhorse. I wonder if we had any winners.
I don't know. We know one guy.
I did not do well on my prop card challenge. I missed a lot of them.
We know one guy that, and it's so him.
Yeah.
Just one time on a humbug, gets a hunch, then strong-armed me.
Yeah.
Into showing him how to do it.
Yep.
Then made fun of the fact that my account has no activity.
Yeah.
And it almost scared him off and he was like, fine, I'll do it myself. Then had the nerve enough to.
He went all Thanos on you. Fine, I guess I'll do it myself.
Text me last night and say, hey, how do I withdraw my 3,500?
It's funny. As soon as you said that number, because I knew what some of the prop lines
were.
Oh,
yeah, because how'd I set it up? I go.
You were just like,
hey, this guy we know really, really well just won a $3,500 prop on a $100 bet.
Was it the non-QB passing touchdown?
Yes.
Because I knew that number because I had looked at it.
You know what he had nerve enough to say?
What's that?
Not, hey, I'll break you off, right?
You like a finder's fee on that?
Yeah. It was, hey, man, lunch on me. If I could eat $1,000 worth of food for lunch, that'd be cool.
Depends on where you go to lunch. We've got Wyatt on the Warhorse Sportsbook hotline. Wyatt, what's going on, man?
How's it going?
Good. How you doing?
Asian Wyatt, what's up, buddy?
Hey, this might be too old of a reference for Ravi, but
we lose him.
Shower door, and there's Bobby Ewing.
Right. Do you know anything about Dallas?
Is that the Who Shot JR?
Oh,
or is that Dynasty? Falcon crest.
Well, anyway, it's like the last few months have been a dream.
Wyatt woke up from the.
Hey, listen, and you know what's funny is you're one of the few guys like I was talking to the whole time, whether it was, I don't know, it was just telling jokes or cooking or something. Like, I appreciated your sense of humor.
Yeah, well, I like the food. I like food, so I didn't mind at all.
Hey, when's the last time your princess rocked the kids are a tough hang shirt? Is she still rolling with that, or?
Her birthday yesterday. So.
Oh, happy belated! So did it say tough hang? Did you like upgrade her size? Or is she growing?
No, that shirt didn't last too long. But no, she was rocking a heart. No, she was rocking a heart shirt with a dinosaurs and unicorns.
Yeah, so, sounds like a princess. Hey, does the Broncos fan in you love the fact that the Chiefs won last night?
No.
Did you turn it off?
As soon as the game was over. Yeah, I didn't. No post game, nothing.
You're gonna have to deal with the Chiefs.
That's kind of like me, Wyatt. I did not indulge in much post game. I was like, I gotta go feed my dogs. I'm going to bed.
I gotta ask you. I gotta ask you one thing because you're super practical.
Okay.
Are you cool with how Peyton handled the Broncos, or are you like, I'm out on this guy?
Not Manning. You're talking about Coach.
Yeah, Sean.
Yeah. To be quite honest, because right now with the 1 now 3-year-old and 1.5-year-old, this year is kind of a little bit of a hibernation year. NFL.
Fair. You didn't miss much for the Broncos, at least.
Wow.
I do feel like it's at first the beginning of the year did feel not great, just from what I was following. It did feel a little bit Nebraska a little bit in the last, but then it did seem like they rallied towards the end there. So I'm a little bit optimistic for next year.
Wyatt, I appreciate you welcoming me back, and you'll get a kick out of this. I finally bought some Mirin, and I'm not using substitutes. I made the effort to go get some Mirin.
All right, I'm glad you moved out of the appropriation phase.
I still don't have the Asian pears, but outside of that, I'm good.
Ooh, Asian pears are good.
Thanks, Wyatt.
All right. Love you.
I love you.
That's Wyatt on the Warhorse Sportsbook hotline. What word are you saying? You're saying Mirin?
Mirin.
Okay.
It's
because the first time you said it, I thought you said urine, and I was like,
it sounded a lot like
urine.
No,
I was like,
no,
what
no.
are you cooking with urine?
Nope.
Don't do that.
What do I look like, Manny Pacquiao?
I don't. That's what I'm like. I don't know. I don't know if you like doing.
Although
Moises
people say there are redeeming qualities. Manny Pacquiao's that guy.
I don't know if you were like doing the Moises Alou, like trying to like make sure you get your hands all calloused up, or what?
Mark Schlereth.
Was that a thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So part of the reason he made the top 5 dirtiest players of all time was because he intentionally did that.
Oh yeah, that's right.
He has the name Stink. And
yeah, that's right. I remember that now.
I'm not going near that.
No,
Mirin. It's
what is that? I don't know what that is.
It's like I think this now
like Helen,
Julian Childs or Sarah Baker Hansen would probably slap my hand, but it's like the equivalent to maybe a rice wine.
Oh, okay.
Or yeah.
Okay. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
I'm sure my wife is probably horrified right now that I don't know what you're saying, but it's fine.
I'm telling you, my cooking skills that's the only thing that really got better. Everything else, a little hit and miss. I'm an even bigger nerd for sports, though. I was watching the waste management.
Hey, listen, that's good for the job, right?
Dude, can you imagine shutting down alcohol sales at that event?
Oh, I'm surprised you. I mean,
they stopped taking tickets.
Yeah, you're dealing with a possible riot on your hands if you do that.
There's a really, really famous basketball player that played at the state school.
Yeah.
That how can I say this? Came back the day of from being at the Open.
Mm-hmm.
This was a couple years ago, and came to the event. That we both had some skin in the game. Absolutely smoked.
Still from the
yeah.
That's kind of what the Waste Management Open's for.
No, and he got 2 hours back coming from where he was. I was like, oh, where are you coming from?
Keyword waste in that Waste Management Open.
Yeah.
So he was smoking ribs or what?
Yeah, that's what he was doing. That's what he was doing.
You had a couple. You had a last Tony White.
Yeah, let me ask you
tangent,
something. I do, just for UCLA, because I'm not sure what kind of job it is, especially moving into the Big Ten Conference.
I think it's a harder job than people think.
All right, so how about this guy?
Okay.
I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you where. I'm not going to tell you where he graduated from.
Okay.
But, offensive assistant, quarterbacks coach, offensive coordinator, but only for 2 years.
Okay.
Another offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach at another institution for 1 year, then in the NFL for 1 year as a pass game specialist and a tight ends coach. Does that interest you?
That's probably a little light on the resume.
Okay. How about this? How about a guy that's coached at Delta State? It might be the giveaway. Quarterbacks coach, OC, interim head coach. So he's got some experience.
Mm-hmm.
Been a head coach. He is a current head coach, but he's only been a head coach for going to be 5 years.
Probably more interested.
Never been in a power conference.
Probably more interested in that, the first guy.
Okay. How about this guy?
Okay.
How about he was a seasonal intern in 2014.
Okay.
He was a defensive assistant in 2015-16.
Okay.
He was a defensive assistant at another organization in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
In 18 and 19, he becomes an assistant secondary coach.
Okay.
In 20, he becomes the secondary coach.
We've gone a long time without being a coordinator yet.
In 21-22, he becomes the safeties coach.
Mm-hmm.
In 23, he becomes a coordinator.
That's too light for me. I need more than 1 year of a coordinator to be a head coach.
Okay. Are you keeping these in your head?
Yeah.
Okay. How about this guy? So he was a linebackers coach.
Okay.
For 2 years. Then he coached corners for 1. Then he was a recruiting coordinator and coached cornerbacks for 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
He was a cornerbacks coach and a defensive game coordinator for 2 years. He was a defensive coordinator and secondary coach for 4.
My order would be the guy that's sitting head coach.
That's Jamie Chadwell.
The last guy.
It's Tony White.
The first guy.
Tommy Reese.
And then the fourth, the other guy.
Lynn's son.
Yeah, so I mean Jamie Chadwell. That lands up with what I actually think. I would take Jamie Chadwell first.
Those are the respective resumes.
Coming up next, we got Russell Baxter to talk a little NFL, put a bow on the Super Bowl here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
High punt. Townsend goes down and now picked up by McKewon. He fumbles it. He fumbles the punt. A muff punt. And Kansas City's got the football. He's got the football at the San Francisco 17-yard line.
Wrapping up the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. I'm Ravi, Lulla, DB here with me. We're on AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, and KFOR in Lincoln. You can also find us on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. You can also find our friend Russell Baxter on the Warhorse Sportsbook Hotline joining us now. Russell, how are you this morning?
I'm doing terrific. Was there a game last night?
I mean, there's a game I'd like to forget. I'm randomly a 49ers fan here in Omaha. So it's a little rough for me this morning, but we're getting through it.
Well, there was a time where the 49ers were the first team to win 5 Super Bowls.
Isn't that something?
And now they're one of a handful of teams to lose at least 3.
That's
so, in a very familiar pattern, for Kyle Shanahan against Andy Reid. Now 0-4 against Andy Reid.
Here's the I gotta ask, Russell. You've done this a long time. You're a historian. Was it anticlimactic that the people that like the Chiefs simply boiled this down to they have Mahomes, San Francisco doesn't? So for as exciting and back and forth and missed opportunities as that game was, that final drive, you're like, oh, yeah, I could see that coming. I was just in denial.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was funny. It was, watching San Francisco and their offense in the second half, I was a lot more impressed with it. Just when it looked like that Brock Purdy was, rolling out into trouble or backing into trouble and so on, even though he only got sacked once, he didn't look comfortable most of the night. But I guess you could say that. I guess you could say the same thing last year when Philadelphia tied the score with 5 and change left. And by the time they saw the football again, there was 8 seconds left and Kansas City was up 38-35. But what gets lost, and it shouldn't, is the Chiefs' defense.
Oh, yeah.
And, watching that defensive struggle for most of the game, I'm sure that some people might not realize, that the Chiefs gave up the second fewest yards and the second fewest points in the league this year. The 49ers gave up the third fewest points. So for everybody screaming offensive league, there was a lot of defense played last night. And watching Patrick Mahomes do, and listen, I'm not a one-man, Patrick Mahomes beat Brock Purdy, okay? That's for the Borg McEnroe crowd, okay?
That's great.
This quarterback beating the quarterback thing, it's so disrespectful to the other guys who play. Okay, it's not handball, all right? But their defense, Steve Spagnuolo, who has had his highs and lows as a head coach and a defense. Here's something that's really interesting. And Spagnuolo's been part of some Super Bowl teams. Do you know he was also the head coach / defensive coordinator of the New Orleans Saints the year that Sean Payton got suspended and his team gave up the most total yards in the history of the league in one season?
Yeah. So it's interesting, Russell, because I want to stay right there. I've been fawning, and I'm a Steelers fan. But I love sports and I love football, and I help coordinate a defense. So I pay attention to little things. I've always loved the Chiefs secondary these last couple of years. Yeah. And I was saying in the first segment, their ability to do what they do, whether it's tackling, understand motion, keep things in front, being able to play in space, that's really the difference in this Spags defense, because he can be as intricate as he wants because that back end is so football sound. They're unbelievable as a group.
Well, it's funny. If you think about the Spagnuolo defenses and how they've excelled at times, it's been the front four. And so this is a little bit of a twist. And maybe, you look at what the Chiefs have drafted the last couple of years and done an outstanding job, getting the players they have, Karlaftis and what's his name? I'm going blank on the cornerback.
Snead or McDuffie.
Who they got in the first round and so on. So, and of course, Isaiah Pacheco got in the seventh round. He wasn't Mr. Irrelevant, but he was in the seventh round. Like Brock Purdy was in the 2022 draft, and those young players have really come through for them. And, it was funny because it was a night also, my pregame prediction was 26-21 Kansas City. So I was 1 point off on one and 1 point off on the other. And I thought Travis Kelce might be the first tight end to be MVP. By the way, he did lead the game with 9 catches and 93 yards. But what Mahomes has done the last 2 years, it's great to look at those passing numbers. And by the way, again, forgotten last year, he was MVP. He threw for less than 200 yards. Mm-hmm. But I believe that 26-yard run against the Eagles late in the game that helped set up the game-winning field goal was key. And again, we saw Patrick Mahomes with his legs last night against the 49ers. Not only did he throw for over 300 yards, guys, he led the Chiefs in rushing last night with 66 yards.
We're talking with Russell Baxter. He's an NFL historian. You can find his work currently on Fansided. Russell, I'm sitting here wondering if we learned anything about who Brock Purdy is in the NFL as a quarterback. Do you feel like you learned anything about Brock Purdy that you didn't already know?
For those who want to label him a front runner, he was anything but that in the postseason. Mm-hmm. He led them from behind against the Packers. He certainly led them behind against the Lions. And by all accounts, I thought he did a hell of a job yesterday. He looked shaky at times, but later in the game and later in the second half, he looked pretty solid, and he was getting the ball. I mean, he had kind of a lull in the middle of the game where you thought maybe, just maybe. And listen, there was a lot of nerves last night in that game. You cannot, and I know this from the players that I worked with at ESPN and coaches and CBS and my television days and stuff, that if you've not been in the Super Bowl, it is a humbling experience early on. And I've seen teams lose the Super Bowl in the first quarter and rally late and not have enough. But that first quarter, especially against a team that's been there for the most part for the last 5 years, they've changed personnel and over. The Niners had not been there, okay, since 2019. Now, there was no Christian McCaffrey in that window there. He was still with the Carolina Panthers. Okay, you saw him put the ball on the ground yesterday, early in the game. So you could see that Trent Williams got off to a miserable start as far as penalties and so on. So, Super Bowl, there's a lot to be said for Super Bowl experience, especially early in the game. But I have to point this out once again. Kyle Shanahan is up by 10 on the Chiefs in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
It was 10-0. And let me throw out one more historic thing and tell me what you think about this. In the first 48 Super Bowls, the Redskins in Super Bowl 22 and the Saints in Super Bowl 44 were the only teams to recover from double-digit deficits to win the game. It has now happened 5 times in the last.
Unbelievable. Russ, let me ask you something. Kind of along those lines with what's next and is this a dynasty? For the AFC, obviously, there's Baltimore, there's Buffalo. I think people are excited about what's going on with the Chargers in San Diego. I'm not in on the Jacksonville hype, but that's whatever. When you look at these coaching hires, whether it's Atlanta or, McDonald being in the division now, for you and your money, who was the best coaching hire in the offseason relative to the fit?
Well, I like the fact, I want to know if this answers your question. I kind of like the fact that the Raiders retained Antonio Pierce, which is, I'm sure many people would agree that they made a big mistake not keeping Rich Bisaccia a couple of years ago after he took over Gruden, led them to the playoffs. That was not well met, and in comes Josh McDaniels, and he didn't even last his contract. So I like that. But I do like the McDonald move because of what he was able to do in a relatively short time with the Ravens. And I find it interesting. Again, I'm so offended because I keep on hearing what an offensive league this year, and more than half the new guys are defensive.
Yeah.
But it's one of the funny things I hear my media brethren. Well, he's a defensive coach. So that means he has no knowledge of offense whatsoever? Is that what you're trying to sell me? Why don't you explain Tony Dungy? Tony Dungy was an NFL defensive back and an NFL defensive coordinator. And you guys know this. He was a college quarterback at the University of Minnesota.
Yep.
So to label a guy a defensive coach is offensive. Okay?
Yeah.
I mean, a coach is a coach. If he can delegate and has a good staff, he's going to be successful. Not every coach who has a defensive background is going run, punt.
Hey, Russell, we're up against it. Let me ask you your opinion here real quick. Who gets an NFL head coaching job again first, Belichick or Vrabel?
I think it'll be Vrabel. I would not be surprised if Bill Belichick winds up in TV this year. And if you will remember, and I can't remember if he won an Emmy or something like that, when they did the NFL's Top 100, he was off the charts good.
Yeah, he was. That's Russell Baxter, NFL writer and historian. You can find his work on Fansided. Russell, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Russell.
You got it, guys. Enjoy.
DB and I will be back tomorrow on Hurrdat Sports Radio.